Chapter 9:47. Her green robe fluttered in the wind, and her temperament was calm. Her green robe was graceful, and she looked pure and elegant. Her appearance could change, her voice could change, but her eyes would never change. It was just that time had left a precipitate in their eyes, fading away their youthfulness. They were no longer the ignorant people they were before. Why? Muyu asked. He didn't understand. Tian Ran was his master's daughter. Why didn't she stand up when everyone was cursing her father? Why didn't she use her life to protect her father like she did when they were facing Gue Xianyue in the Moyun mountain range? Did she really abandon her feelings for the sake of becoming a fairy? If a person didn't have feelings, then what was the difference between them and a walking corpse? Tian Ran's eyes were calm, and she didn't move at all because of Mu Yu's appearance. It was as if she was looking at a stranger. "I don't know you," Tian Ran said calmly. Even so, the illusion array on Mu Yu's face disappeared, revealing his original appearance. Tian Ran knitted her brows again. There seemed to be a ripple in her clear eyes, but it disappeared in an instant. This time, Tian Ran didn't say anything. Mu Yu fell into silence. However, the sharp-eyed people behind him had already recognized Mu Yu. This was because the Sanchong Palace had already spread Mu Yu's appearance to all the cities. Someone shouted, "He's Mu Yu, the traitor of humanity, Mu Yu." What? It's actually Mu Yu. Damn it, capture him. He's colluding with Yaman. All the self-cultivators were filled with righteous indignation, and they began to denounce Mu Yu. The white-clothed woman from the Red Dust sect, Yin Xingyun, had already landed beside Tian Ran. There was actually a trace of morbid fanaticism in her eyes. "You're Mu Yu?" Yin Xingyun asked. However, Mu Yu didn't even look at Yin Xingyun. His gaze was always on Tian Ran. In front of him, Yin Xingyun wasn't even worth mentioning. "Why are you pretending not to know me?" Mu Yu asked. Years ago, when he was being hunted by all the cultivators because of the White Ape Demon King, he boldly declared to Qiao Shui and everybody else in the competition in the Eight Grass Village calmly. "That's right, I like Mu Yu Gich." At that time, Tian Ran stood up in front of everyone and desperately expressed her feelings, wanting to fight for the person she liked. It was also at that time that Mu Yu understood what Tian Ran meant to him. Now, Mu Yu also stood up regardless of everything. Even if everyone criticized him, he didn't care. This was because he wanted to protect the girl in front of him. He hoped that Tian Ran would stand with him to save his master and father. However, this girl didn't have the courage of the past, nor did she express anything. It was as if she was a stranger to Mu Yu. When Yin Xingyun saw that Mu Yu ignored her, a trace of anger flashed in her eyes. She shouted, "Traitor Mu Yu, you actually dare to appear here. You've worn out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it without any effort. Today, I'll get rid of evil for the people and capture you, the traitor of the human race." She waved her hand, and two ripples suddenly appeared in the air. Following that, two figures stepped out of the void and formed a triangle, trapping Mu Yu in the middle. These two were wearing black robes and hoods. Their cultivation was at the crossing calamity stage. They were actually from the third palace. "Mu Yu, we really found you." One of the third palace cultivators laughed loudly. Mu Yu was unmoved. He only looked at Tian Ran, waiting for Tian Ran's explanation. "Why?" Mu Yu asked again. He wasn't afraid of anyone. Even if these people stood out to suppress him and want his life, he wasn't afraid. However, he didn't understand why Tian Ran would become like this. That innocent girl, that silly girl who taught him the tree thump technique, that ignorant girl who taught Mu Yu to chase Lan Ling, even though she didn't know about love. Now, she had become like this. Tian Ran still didn't answer him. "Capture Mu Yu. Kill him. Kill the traitor of the human race." The cultivator shouted again. Mu Yu suddenly felt a burst of irritation. Mu Yu moved his gaze away from Tian Ran and found little Chun Shi's parents in the crowd. He slowly walked to them. Little Chun Shi's parents looked very nervous. Because they were only mortals, they were also frightened by the curses of so many people. However, they didn't leave. Little Chun, she was still in Mu Yu's hands. They were worried about their daughter. "You are Mu Yu?" Chun Shi's father asked in surprise. I am. Muyu nodded and handed Chun-Shi to her father. Big brother, are you the disciple of the true God? That Muyu? Little Chun-Shi asked nervously. Do you still remember our promise? Muyu smiled. Little Chun-Shi nodded. Holding the statue of the true God in her hand, she said, I will protect the true God. You will protect me. Yes, I will protect you. Muyu said. Chun-Shi's mother hesitated for a moment and said, You have to be careful. We all believe in the true God. Chun-Shi's father also nodded. Thank you for protecting Chun-Shi. No, I should be the one thanking you. Thank you for believing in my master. 2 jade pendants appeared in Muyu's hand, and he handed them to Chun-Shi's parents. Little Chun-Shi also took out her jade pendant. Then, a stream of spiritual energy appeared in Muyu's hand and struck the jade pendant. The jade pendant immediately shattered. A powerful suction force came from the runes. Chun-Shi's family of 3 was still in shock when they were sucked into the whirlpool of runes in the blink of an eye. Where do you think you're going? Yin Qingyun had already made her move. A red lotus fiercely floated out from behind her, wanting to stop the runes of the teleportation array. However, Muyu only looked at her coldly. A murderous aura instantly covered his body. With a sword strike, he shattered Yin Qingyun's red lotus. The murderous aura came and went quickly. In an instant, it was sealed up by Muyu again. He did not want the murderous aura to affect him. He wanted to use his true face to face Tianran. Where did that bitch's family go? Their family still believes in the traitor of the human race, Jian Ing Chunfeng. They deserve to die. Bitch. Traitor? Muyu's gaze was incomparably calm. Sword light surged, and countless runes rushed out from the ground. Pucci, Pucci, Pucci. Those self-cultivators who were still cursing had their throats pierced by the shadow clone sword. Their soul power shattered and blood dyed the ground of Chun and city red. All the self-cultivators cried out in fear. They never thought that Muyu's sword array would be so fast. It was so fast that they did not even have time to react. In just an instant, those people who spoke without thinking paid the price with their lives. Unrelated people, back off, Yin Qingyun shouted. All the self-cultivators were shocked by her shout and retreated one after another. When they saw Muyu, their faces revealed incomparable hatred. However, they did not dare to step forward because, according to the rumors, Muyu is a heinous devil who slaughtered self-cultivators without blinking an eye. Muyu is indeed a devil. The current him would never blink an eye when killing those ungrateful people. When these people insulted Muyu's master and cursed a 5-year-old girl, they were already destined to die. The people from the third palace did not care about the life and death of these people. They allowed Muyu to kill these people. Their goal was only Muyu. To capture Muyu, even if they had to sacrifice the lives of the entire Chun and city, they would not hesitate. The crowd had already dispersed and Chun and city had already been sealed. However, how could this seal trap Muyu? He did not want to escape. He wanted an answer from Tianran. Why did you become like this? From beginning to end, Muyu did not look at the others. He only looked at Tianran. The 2 people from the third palace had already used their soul technique to set up an incomparably powerful barrier around them, trapping Muyu within. 2 lords, let's attack together and capture Muyu, Yin Qingyun said respectfully. As a tribulation-passing elder of the Red Dust sect, Yin Qingyun was already controlled by the divine soul array. However, Tianran suddenly stood out. She tore off her veil, revealing her devastatingly beautiful face. Her voice became extremely cold. None of you should attack, Tianran said. Tianran, don't mess around. He is not a good person now, Yin Qingyun shouted. Elder Yin, didn't we go to various cities to find this person and then let me deal with him? Tianran said indifferently. But right now, you are not his opponent, Yin Qingyun said anxiously. He must be dealt with by me personally. Tianran raised her voice. Yin Qingyun wanted to say something, but one of the third palace people said, Let Tianran do it herself. As the heavenly daughter of the Red Dust sect, she will inherit the Red Dust sect in the future. Naturally, she must cut off her feelings personally. We have already trapped him. Today, He will not be able to escape, even if he has wings. Yes, Lord, Yin Qingyun said respectfully. Everyone retreated. Only Mu Yu and Tian Ran remained. Little Shuai had already turned into a little beast the moment Mu Yu appeared and hid in Mu Yu's embrace. Mu Yu and Tian Ran looked at each other silently. Tell me what happened. Mu Yu said, You are a hard tribulation of mine. I want to find you and end this hard tribulation with my own hands. Tian Ran's ninth heavenly layer body fusion aura rippled slightly. It looked incomparably weak, but it was terrifyingly powerful. I am a heart tribulation of yours. Mu Yu felt lost. Tian Ran's cultivation had already reached the ninth heavenly layer body fusion. If she wanted to enter the tribulation passing stage, she had to pass the heart tribulation. Tian Ran's heart tribulation was Mu Yu, but Mu Yu's heart tribulation was also Tian Ran. You have been recruiting disciples all over the cultivation world. Was it all to find me? Mu Yu suddenly understood why Tian Ran was here. Tian Ran's heart tribulation was Mu Yu. She had become the heavenly lady of the Red Dust sect and cultivated the most advanced cultivation technique of the Red Dust sect. She could not fall in love with any man. She had to cut off all ties with Mu Yu. In order to find Mu Yu, they spread the news in various cities of the cultivation world under the pretext of recruiting disciples. They knew that Mu Yu would definitely come to find Tian Ran, because Mu Yu had once told everyone that he liked Tian Ran. As long as Mu Yu appeared, they would capture Mu Yu and let Tian Ran kill Mu Yu to pass her heart tribulation. Their plan was quite perfect. They joined forces with the people of the Third Palace and lurked in the dark. Finally, they caught Mu Yu and Chun in city. I only have one question. Have you really forgotten me? Mu Yu's gaze was very calm. He was not angry because he had fallen into the other party's trap. He was used to all kinds of despicable means of the Third Palace. He was already used to this. All he wanted was an answer. Chapter 948. Tian Ran raised her hand, and a sword light flashed. The immortal Dew sword appeared and pointed at Mu Yu. I need to sever my heart, tribulation, Tian Ran said indifferently. The sword in Tian Ran's hand was clear and cold, as if it was made from immortal dew from the heavens. It was sparkling and translucent, shining with a faint brilliance. It was untainted by the dust of the mortal world. It was one of the 9 heavenly swords, a bit of immortal dew that was all-encompassing. Mu Yu looked at the immortal dew sword in Tian Ran's hand, and his heart skipped a beat. Master had given the sword to Miao Yuyin, and now it was in Tranquil's hands. But in the end, he pointed it at Mu Yu. Is the position of sect master really that important to you? Mu Yu asked softly. His shadow, clone, sword trembled as if it had found a long-lost partner and let out a burst of joy. However, Mu Yu was not happy. In order to cultivate the red dust lotus art to the highest realm, I must kill you, Tian Ran said. The immortal dew sword light trembled, and the lotus shadows moved. Pure lotus flowers bloomed one after another. Each lotus flower carried a cold sword chi. A cold light flashed, and the lotus flowers turned into sword chi, shattering the void and falling towards Mu Yu. The shadow clone sword flashed, and all the lotus sword chi were shattered. Have you forgotten your mother? Have you forgotten your father? Mu Yu's shadow clone sword appeared in front of his chest. Formation patterns flowed on the sword tip, mysterious and graceful. I don't have a father. Tranquility took a step forward, and the golden lotus beneath her feet blossomed with ripples. When she appeared again, she was already behind Mu Yu. The immortal dew sword brought along the afterimages of the lotus as it rushed towards Mu Yu from all directions. However, none of the lotus shadows fell on Mu Yu. Golden formation patterns appeared around Mu Yu, and the lotus shadows rapidly advanced, but they could not reach his body. Mu Yu trembled. He couldn't believe that these words came out of Tian Ran's mouth. In order to find her father, she had snuck out from a faraway place and entered the barren Mayun mountain range. In order to find her father, she had asked around for the whereabouts of Jianing and Chunfeng. In order to find her father, she had blocked Gue Xuanyue's fatal strike. In order to not disturb her father, she had chosen to hide the truth and stay by her father's side as a silly girl. But now she said, I don't have a father. Muyu looked into Tian Rant's eyes. Tian Rant's eyes were still so clear, but they lacked the innocence that they should have. Instead, they had a trace of indifference, which made him feel extremely unfamiliar. The lotus shadow streaked across the sky and turned into a shadow. The immortal dew sword appeared in front of Muyu and stabbed forward. Ding! The shadow split sword responded and came into contact with the immortal dew sword. The tips of the swords hummed, and both trembled. The pure sword chi and the endless sword chi collided with each other. The sword chi slashed open, instantly crushing the surrounding houses and razing them to the ground. The two figures faced each other in the air, and the sword chi maintained a wonderful balance. Tian Ran was also at the 9th layer of body fusion. Her talent was extremely high, and she was the daughter of Jianing and Qinfeng. How could her strength be weak? Spirit energy circulated in Muyu's hand. The tip of the shadow split sword suddenly swung out of black and white Tai Chi 8 trigrams. The black and white Tai Chi 8 trigrams quickly rotated and dissolved all of the lotus sword chi. Two sword chi, one black and one white, spun out and surged up the immortal dew sword. However, a red lotus shadow appeared from Tian Rant's body and blocked the black and white sword chi. At the same time, Tian Ran had already retreated and stood in the air. Her green veil fluttered as she stood on a golden lotus. She was like a fairy descending to the mortal world, graceful and beautiful. The immortal dew sword rotated in the air. Red lotuses continuously floated out from the immortal dew sword and gently swayed in the air. They were quiet and elegant, but also filled with endless killing intent. The surrounding spirit chi seemed to be gathering with the lotuses as the center. Pure lotus dance. The immortal dew sword light broke through the void. As the sword slashed out, a clear lotus floated out. Its elegant brilliance enveloped the entire space, causing Muyu's breathing to become sluggish. Then, the sword surged out. Countless sword lights were hidden in the lotus shadow, and in the blink of an eye, they arrived. Muyu's sword rushed out. Formation runes flashed under Muyu's feet. The shadow split sword slashed out and broke through the imprisoned space. One black and 100 sword chi evolved into an endless sword aura in the air and instantly suppressed Tian Rant's sword aura. I don't want to fight with you. Muyu's gaze landed on Yin Qingyun and the others. He understood that the three of them were all transcending tribulation experts and gave him a lot of pressure. It was too difficult for him to face three transcending tribulation experts alone. He had to block Tian Ran. The power of slaughter instantly surged out. The endless sword chi was replaced by sword chi filled with killing intent. The terrifying sword chi completely destroyed Tian Rant's lotus shadow. His figure flashed and arrived beside Tian Ran. The formation runes his hand surged and instantly invaded Tian Rant's body. However, a golden brilliance suddenly rose from Tian Rant's body and blocked Muyu's formation runes. Then, Tian Rant's entire body turned into a ray of light and disappeared. There's actually something unique to the mortal dust sect protecting her body. It won't be controlled by me. Muyu frowned. At this moment, the 2/3 palace cultivators and Yin Xingyun had already landed beside Tian Ran and faced Muyu together. Tian Ran, back off. His power of slaughter is too strong. We can't give him any more chances. Yin Xingyun shouted. The three transcending tribulation experts surrounded Muyu. This time, he didn't have the open ruins cauldron to rely on. Yin Xingyun was also a powerful transcending tribulation expert of the mortal dust sect, not to mention the 2/3 palace cultivators. Their auras were even stronger than Qin Shange and Wan Shuiyao. Today, with Lord Jiang Shangqiu and Lord Xiang Higuan here, Muyu, you won't be able to escape even if you have wings. Once we capture you and let Tian Ran kill you, everything will be done. A red lotus appeared behind Yin Xingyun. Jiang Shangqiu, ranked 12th among the extreme immortals. Xiang Higuan, ranked 11th among the extreme immortals. The bugs of the third palace are really persistent. The hatred in Mu Yu's heart had already broken through the sky. That's right. As long as you're not captured, we'll continue to pester you. Xiang Yiguan laughed. Are we going to make a move in Chun'an City? Jiang Shangqiu asked. Although Chun'an City wasn't big, it still had close to 70,000 self-cultivators and mortals. At this moment, everyone was watching from afar. Many people were amazed by Fairy Tian Rant's move just now. Many people were cursing Mu Yu angrily. The Heavenly Lady of the Mortal Dust sect should make a move and bring the traitor of the human race to justice. That's right, kill him. He colluded with Yumon. He should be executed on the spot. Don't worry. With the Heavenly Lady of the Mortal Dust sect here, Mu Yu won't be able to escape this time. The self-cultivators' indignant voices came from afar. They all hoped that the people of the Mortal Dust sect would be able to take down Mu Yu. They didn't have the courage to make a move, but they had the motivation to curse. Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Yiguan were still wrapped in long robes and didn't reveal their true appearances. The people of the third palace seemed to have some scruples and didn't dare to reveal their true appearances. However, Mu Yu didn't have that many scruples. His body was filled with killing intent. The formation pattern surged, and he slashed out with his sword towards Yan Qingyun. Yan Qingyun frowned. She took a step forward, and the sword in her hand went up to meet the attack. Thousands of lotus shadows appeared and met Mu Yu's sword. Mu Yu's body was filled with hostility. When he thought of the emotionless Tian Ran, his heart burned like a raging fire. He wanted to annihilate the Mortal Dust sect. The murderous sword chi broke through the sky and crushed the wind and clouds, forming a huge whirlpool. The sky seemed to have been flipped over. The endless sword chi shrouded the sky above Chun and City, wanting to destroy the world. The self-cultivators of Chun and City were shocked by Mu Yu's sword. They didn't expect that Mu Yu would actually use such a powerful sword chi. The sky seemed to be filled with killing intent. The spiritual energy in the surroundings surged violently, causing every self-cultivator to lose their balance. They all retreated 1,000 meters away and didn't have the time to gossip anymore. Mortal Dust sect, damn you. Mu Yu's right, I was filled with black light, while his left, I was flashing with white light. He was like a killing god that had descended to the world. He wanted to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and kill the people of the Mortal Dust sect. Yan Qingyun's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Mu Yu's sword chi had connected with the sky and gave her a huge amount of pressure. However, she was still an elder of the Mortal Dust sect. Her cultivation was extraordinary. Behind her, a huge red lotus bud was about 10 feet long. It was holy and elegant. The petals were sparkling and translucent, containing an incomparably powerful spiritual energy. Lotus blooms, all creation. Yan Qingyun shouted. The lotus bloomed instantly, and a colorful light soared into the sky. It carried an incomparably powerful killing intent as it strangled towards Mu Yu. Mu Yu held the shadow clone sword in his right hand, but his left hand had already divided into runes. For a moment, it was as if the space in front of him was cut off. A gap appeared, and 8 trigrams appeared under his feet. Wind descends, dragon roars to the heavens. The 8 trigrams under Mu Yu's feet suddenly spun. The Tai Chi and Yin Yang Chi rushed out from his body and intertwined with each other, transforming into a majestic black and white dragon that was filled with killing intent. The dragon was about 100 feet long and suddenly let out an earth-shaking dragon roar. The dragon roar was soul-stirring and resounded throughout the entire Chun and City. All the self-cultivators who weren't strong enough felt their minds tremble and were instantly dazed. The black and white dragon circled around Mu Yu's shadow, clone sword, and roared. Then, it suddenly charged towards Yan Qingyun's colorful light. Boom! When Yan Qingyun's colorful light met the invincible black and white dragon, it was like a fragile porcelain piece that couldn't withstand a single blow. It was directly destroyed by the dragon's breath. The black and white dragon charged forward and charged towards Yan Qingyun. Yan Qingyun's expression changed drastically. Her body was enveloped by Mu Yu's killing intent. The black and white dragon was clearly still far away, but a rune lit up on its body. Following that, it traversed a distance and arrived in front of her in an instant. It opened its bloody mouth and bit down on Yin Xingyun. Two lords, Yin Xingyun shouted anxiously. Mu Yu's strength had far exceeded her imagination. With her strength alone, there was no way she could withstand it. Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Higuan looked at each other. Jiang Shangqiu had already flown over and landed beside Yin Xingyun. 10 white pearls revolved in front of him, and a sacred white light instantly lit up, forming a barrier in front of the black and white dragon. Boom! A powerful impact poured out. Jiang Shangqiu and Yin Xingyun both retreated. Yin Xingyun's face turned pale, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. The black robe on Jiang Shangqiu's body was instantly torn apart, revealing an incomparably sacred body. It was an imposing man. White sacred light surrounded his body as if he was a god that had descended to the mortal world. Chapter 949. Jiang Shangqiu revealed his true body. His holy and majestic body made all the self-cultivators in Chun and City exclaim in admiration. Could this person really be a god of heaven? Oh my God, there really are gods in this world. It's a god. He really is a god descending to the mortal world. It was the first time that all the self-cultivators saw the majestic brilliance on Jiang Shangqiu's body. It was incomparably noble and made people revere him. They never knew that such a person existed in this world. However, Jiang Shangqiu's expression was very angry. He did not seem to want to reveal his true body. Mu Yu, do you know that all these people in Chun and City will die because of you? Jiang Shangqiu shouted angrily. Even though he shouted angrily, he still appeared to be righteous. It was as if his anger was righteous and natural. Because of me? You people from the third palace always like to hide. You dare to start a war with the self-cultivators. Why don't you dare to reveal your true face? Do you still want to kill everyone who sees your true face? Is this the style of the third palace? Mu Yu's voice was like rolling thunder, spreading throughout the entire Chun City. His words were heard clearly by both the self-cultivators and the mortals. All the self-cultivators were stunned. When they heard Mu Yu say that the person who revealed his true face was a mysterious person from the third palace, they were extremely surprised. This was because no one had seen the true face of the third palace before. Did Mu Yu mean that this person was from the third palace? Like a stone thrown into a calm lake, the originally quiet Chun and City was once again bustling with noise. Everyone thought of the greatness of the third palace and saw the godlike Jiang Shangqiu. They actually believed Mu Yu's words. So this is the lord from the third palace. No wonder they look so tall and majestic. They are really gods sent by the heavens to save us. Yes, this is a true god. Sword Shadow and Chun Feng are nothing. The self-cultivators discussed animatedly. They looked at Jiang Shangqiu from the third palace in amazement. They ignored Mu Yu's words that the third palace would kill them. In their eyes, Mu Yu was like a god of slaughter that had descended to the world, and his vicious aura was monstrous like a devil. On the other hand, Jiang Shangqiu was tall and imposing, and his aura was incomparably holy. He was a true god of heaven. Moreover, he was a person from the third palace who was like the savior of the world. How could he possibly kill them? The killing god and god of heaven faced each other in the air. Everyone chose to believe in God of Heaven. Mu Yu must be slandering this great god. Xiang Higuan, we don't have time to hide our identities anymore. Jiang Shangqiu looked at Xiang Higuan. Higuan hesitated for a moment. Then his body lit up with a holy white light. Whoosh! Xiang Higuan's black robe was suddenly torn apart, revealing his true face. This was another majestic god. He stood firmly in the air, causing everyone in Chun City to become even more excited. Lord gods, quickly kill Mu Yu. Great! The heavenly deity of the third palace has come to save us. Capture Mu Yu, the traitor of the human race. The cultivators all shouted excitedly. Their shouts were incomparably excited and resounded through the sky. Mu Yu quickly looked These cultivators are on them, Little Commander exclaimed. All the self-cultivators felt their blood boiling as an inexplicable aura radiated from the crowd. This aura was endlessly growing and multiplying, symbolizing an incomparably exuberant life force. It seemed to have appeared due to the holy aura of Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Yiguan. There were tens of thousands of people in Chun'an City. With tens of thousands of people shouting at the same time, the aura surged. But what was strange was that this aura emitted from the passionate crowd was repelling the white radiance on Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Yiguan's body. The originally holy and pure white radiance was actually forced back by the exuberant aura of the cultivators. It was as if a mouse had seen a cat, and it was actually gradually torn apart. The holy white light from Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Yiguan was gradually repelled by the exuberant aura from tens of thousands of people. Their skin gradually dried up. Their ears also began to grow long and sharp. Their noses sunk in. Their skin looked like it was scalded by boiling water. It was extremely rough. Even their eyes turned brown. The originally two incomparably majestic and holy deities instantly turned into two ugly monsters that were neither human nor ghost. The cultivators who were in high spirits were suddenly stunned. They were frightened by the changes in Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Yiguan. Were the two sky deities just now? How? How did it become like this? Who are these two monsters? The cultivators looked at the sanctimonious Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Yiguan in bewilderment. Who would have thought that when everyone was cheering, they would actually change their appearance and become disgusting? So that's how it is. You bunch of filthy bugs. No wonder you don't dare to reveal your true nature in front of everyone. Muyu snorted coldly. The soul power was taken from the dead. It disguised the people of the third palace as very holy. However, the things of the dead were taboo against life force. When more than 70,000 people in Chun'an City shouted loudly, the life force that emerged from their bodies would form a terrifying force. It repelled the soul power from the third palace and returned them to their original form. Once their true form was revealed, how could such ugly people of the third palace become the leader of the cultivation world? This was the reason why the people of the third palace did not dare to reveal their true forms in front of all the cultivators. Yin Qinyun and Tian Ran did not show any surprise. It was as if the two of them had already known about this situation. How disgusting. When we were in Danding sect, Qian Shange and Wan Shuiyao did not reveal their true forms. Little Handsome said in disgust. That's because no one in Danding sect cheered. Muyu said in a deep voice. At that time, Qian Shange and Wan Shuiyao had only revealed their true forms before they used the reverse origin blood. They did not even need to wait for the cheers of Danding sect's disciples and had already changed their appearance. Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Yiguan were forced to reveal their true forms by the life force of so many people. Jiang Shangqiu did not care about other people's gazes. He said with a hideous smile on his ugly face, "It doesn't matter." Chun'an City was originally a dead city. The crowd became dead silent. They lacked the high-pitched cheers and enthusiasm. The soul power gradually returned to Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Yiguan's body. Their bodies lit up with white holy brilliance, and they became two majestic gods again. But this time, no self-cultivators cheered loudly. In their hearts, they had begun to doubt the two great gods of the third palace. They couldn't accept it. Why did the two gods become so ugly? Filthy bug. Muyu's black and white light flashed. The sword intent of the firmament suddenly fell towards Jiang Shangqiu. The black and white giant dragon coiled around the sword energy. It spun and opened its bloody mouth again, rushing towards Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Yiguan. Soul Technique Luoyin, suspending soul mirror. The 10 white soul beads on Jiang Shangqiu's body flickered with a brilliant light, illuminating the surroundings. The 10 soul beads formed a circle and instantly enlarged, blocking in front of Jiang Shangqiu. Then, each of the soul beads shot out a beam of white soul power, converging towards the center. The soul power spread out horizontally, like a white circular mirror. This mirror was 10 feet long. It met Firmament Wood's sword intent head-on. Wong. The sword energy filled with killing intent fell from the sky. The black and white giant dragon intertwined and rushed into the suspending soul mirror. However, the suspending soul mirror only had a ripple. It actually sucked the black and white giant dragon into the suspending soul mirror. Together with Mu Yu's sword energy, it was swallowed. The suspending soul mirror began to tremble. It swallowed the sword intent of the firmament and seemed to be a little unstable. However, Jiang Shangqiu did not panic. Instead, he turned the suspending soul mirror to another direction and aimed it at the dense crowd in Chun'an City. Swish! Mu Yu's sword energy entwined with a black and white giant dragon. It actually drilled out of the suspending soul mirror and attacked the self-cultivators in Chun'an City. All the self-cultivators were stunned when they saw Jiang Shangqiu's suspending soul mirror. The sword energy that was originally attacking Jiang Shangqiu was actually swallowed by Jiang Shangqiu's suspending soul mirror and was now directed at them. That sacred third palace person actually transferred Mu Yu's attack to them after absorbing it. How can this be? How can a third palace god treat us like this? This was the thought that circled in the minds of all the self-cultivators in Chun'an City. It was also their last thought, because no one could block this sword. Boom! The sword energy and the black giant dragon instantly drowned all the self-cultivators in the area. The murderous sword energy shredded the bodies of all the self-cultivators in the vicinity, extinguishing their possibility of survival. A huge killing intent spread out with this sword as the center. It destroyed countless houses in Chun'an City and reaped the lives of almost half of the self-cultivators. In just a blink of an eye, about 30,000 self-cultivators in Chun'an City died under this sword and turned into countless soul power. Xiang Yiguan didn't even attack Mu Yu. The 10 soul pearls on his body turned into millions of water droplets and swallowed all the soul power of the 30,000 self-cultivators after they died. Mu Yu's sword energy originally carried killing intent. Those who were killed by the sword energy wouldn't have any soul power. However, this time, his sword energy was absorbed by the suspending soul mirror. When it was released, its aura was already cut off. Mu Yu couldn't control this sword energy at all. Jiang Shangqiu borrowed his sword energy to kill over 30,000 people in Chun'an City. Haha. The people of Chun'an City died under your sword energy. If these people want to blame someone, they can only blame you. Jiang Shangqiu laughed maniacally. Today, the Heavenly Lady of Red Dust sect arrived. Countless self-cultivators came here to join in the fun. However, they never thought that they would step into hell on earth. The remaining 30,000 people of Chun'an City were scared stiff. They were on the other side and weren't affected by this sword energy. Although this destructive killing sword energy killed over 30,000 people, these people weren't idiots. They knew who was the one who killed these 30,000 people. It wasn't the human traitor Mu Yu who was like a killing god descending upon the world. It was the mighty god from Triple Palace, Jiang Shangqiu. Such a huge contrast completely overturned their understanding. Triple Palace actually didn't care about the lives of self-cultivators. Mu Yu watched all of this with cold eyes. He wouldn't feel guilty because of this sword energy. The death of those people in Chun'an City was inevitable. These people were passionately crusading against Mu Yu in the beginning. They wanted to kill Mu Yu and scold the true god. They were excited and hoped that Triple Palace could save them from the abyss of suffering. However, they never thought that it was their belief that killed them. Chapter 950. Mu Yu kept looking at Tianran. He hoped to see a trace of emotion in Tianran's eyes, because with Tianran's personality, she would not watch so many people die in front of her without doing anything. That pure and kind girl, when she was in Lanchi City, because she helped to set up the array to kill Yumon, she killed some innocent people who could not escape in time. After that, she felt extremely guilty. However, Tianran still looked at all of this calmly. as if these people's deaths had nothing to do with her. Did the mortal dust sex incantation really turn her into an emotionless person? Muyu, who was once obsessed with killing, also lost his emotions. When killing was rampant, all emotions would not take the initiative. However, this time, Muyu firmly controlled the killing because Tian Rant's figure in his mind was more important than anything else. I will definitely wake you up. Muyu's voice was extremely determined. He turned towards Xiang Higuan, but Xiang Higuan had already turned his soul orb into bits of sacred starlight, falling towards the remaining people in Chun'an City who were still alive. Those cultivators looked at the sacred starlight wandering around and did not understand what the starlight meant. There were even some people who curiously stretched out their hands to touch it. However, with this touch, that person's face instantly changed. After all, the sacred starlight contaminated the cultivators' and mortals' bodies. It actually invaded their bodies and plated their bodies with a layer of sacred radiance. This radiance was incomparably sacred, as if it was going to penetrate their bodies. Bang, bang, bang. Every single one of them exploded into clouds of blood mist. The blood mist instantly dyed the pure white spots of light into a demonic bright red. The devil! Quickly run! It was unknown who shouted, but everyone moved in fear and quickly flew out of Chun'an City. Chun'an City's statue had already been shattered, so the city defense array was no longer effective. Everyone rose into the air and fled in all directions in panic. However, they could not escape. A sacred white light appeared from Chun'an City's city and formed a barrier, enveloping everyone in Chun'an City. When those who flew at the front encountered the barrier, they were directly shattered by the barrier and turned into blood mist. The white starlight shuttled back and forth. Everyone was already scared out of their wits. They screamed and tried to find obstacles to hide, but more and more white starlight caught up to them and killed them. Muyu's biting cold-killing intent rushed towards Xiang Higuan. He had to stop Xiang Higuan from killing these people. Perhaps these people's deaths were not regrettable, but once they turned into soul power, they would become Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Higuan's power. The soul power after the deaths of 70,000 people in Chun'an City was incomparably terrifying. Your opponent is me. Jiang Shangqiu laughed loudly. His suspending soul mirror attacked again and blocked in front of Muyu. He wanted to devour Muyu's sword chi, but Muyu snorted coldly. The mirror image array appeared and enveloped his sword chi. The murderous sword chi penetrated the suspending soul mirror and continued to attack Xiang Higuan. What? Jiang Shangqiu was furious. He originally wanted to repeat the same trick and refine Muyu's sword chi. However, he did not expect Muyu to not give him a chance and directly kill Xiang Higuan. However, Xiang Higuan snorted coldly. All the self-cultivators who were blown into blood mist gathered on his body. The 10 white soul pearls in front of him had already turned into 10 dark red blood pearls. The blood pearls' evil aura overflowed and rushed into the sky, forming a whirlpool and enveloping Muyu's sword chi. Boom! The sword chi and the blood-colored whirlpool turned into nothingness at the same time. However, Jiang Shangqiu had already activated his suspending soul mirror. This time, the suspending soul mirror emitted a strong soul power fluctuation and formed a terrifying light beam of destruction. It shot out and rushed towards Muyu's body. The golden array pattern appeared in front of Muyu again. The array technique, so close, yet worlds apart, blocked in front of him. The white soul power beam blasted onto the golden array pattern and continued to move forward. However, it was unable to penetrate the array pattern. The sword chi in Muyu's hand flourished once again. The huge whirlpool in the sky spun wildly. The great heavenly might shook one's soul and was about to descend from the sky. However, at this moment, the enchantment of Chun'an City suddenly trembled. The red color made it look demonic. The powerful enchantment actually cut off the connection between Muyu's shadow, clone sword, and the sky. Swoosh! When Muyu's sword chi slashed towards Xiang Higuan, it suddenly disappeared. The brilliant heavenly might in the sky was also cut off. It could no longer connect with the heavens and earth. I've long heard that the heaven sword can communicate with the heavens and earth and unleash a supreme sword intent. Do you think we didn't guard against this? Now that we have cut off this place from the outside world, let's see how you're going to use the heaven sword. Xiang Higuan sneered. Xiang Higuan had already killed countless people. There were about 50 to 60,000 of them. After those people died, they turned into countless soul power. These soul power were quite terrifying. When the incomparably powerful soul power gathered together, it formed an enchantment that even Mu Yu was helpless against. By the way, let me tell you something. In the enchantment that we created, even the demonic king domain in your hands can't be used. This time, we will definitely capture you. Jiang Shangqiu laughed heartily as he stood together with Guan He and Guan He. The aura emanating from their bodies was 10 times stronger than before. In a place where there were many people, they could kill others and turn them into their own power to deal with Mu Yu. This was the strength of the Triple Palace. What should we do? Mu Yu, without the sword intent of the firmament, it will be difficult for us to fight these two guys. Xiao Shui said softly. Back in the Pill Cauldron sect, Qian Shange and Wan Shuiyao were trapped in the Pill Cauldron sect by Mu Yu using the array of the cauldron opening cauldron. This time, the situation was the opposite. Mu Yu was trapped by the enchantment of the Triple Palace. Mu Yu's current true strength was at the 9th heavenly layer of the combination realm. After fusing with the slaughter energy, his cultivation was comparable to a 5th heavenly layer of the tribulation passing stage. On the other hand, Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Higuan were originally stronger than Qian Shange and Wan Shuiyao. Now that nearly 60,000 people in Chunan City had become their soul power, their cultivation had already reached the 8th heavenly layer of the tribulation passing stage, far surpassing Mu Yu. Mu Yu also realized that something was wrong. However, it was too late for him to retreat now, because the entire Chunan City had been sealed off. There were still more than 10,000 people hiding in the houses and buildings. They were terrified and trembling. Most of these people were mortals. Because they couldn't fly, they all stood on the streets. The flying cultivators were the first to be killed by Xiang Higuan. However, these mortals could also become Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Higuan's killing force at any time. They had nowhere to run. Mu Yu's Sea Goblin King's domain ability appeared in his hand. However, just like what Jiang Shangqiu said, the domain ability was restricted by a strange aura and couldn't be used. In order to deal with me, you guys really have a lot of tricks up your sleeves. He coldly stared at Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Higuan. These two people now had the support of soul power, and their cultivation was far above his. Not to mention, there was also Yin Qingyun, who was at the 4th layer of tribulation passing stage. The combined strength of these three people couldn't be underestimated. It was disadvantageous to fight with the maggots of the threefold palace in a place with many people. This was because they treated human lives like grass. They could kill the surrounding cultivators at any time and turn the cultivators into soul power to increase their own strength. This time, in a city with 10,000 people, it was one disaster after another for Mu Yu. The entire Chunan city was practically the source of Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Higuan's power. After killing so many of our people, you should obediently surrender. Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Higuan rushed over one after another and surrounded Mu Yu. Yin Qingyun also activated the red dust lotus art from the side. A lotus flower blasted towards Mu Yu. The runes under Mu Yu's feet surged, and the Big Dipper constellation array appeared. He turned around and rushed towards Yin Qingyun. Yin Qingyun was the weakest among the three. He had to get River first. However, Jiang Shangqiu's attack was firmly locked onto Mu Yu. He didn't give Mu Yu any chance to kill Yin Qingyun. The moment Mu Yu appeared, the soul bead in Jiang Shangqiu's hand had already pierced through the void. With a whistling sound, it blocked Mu Yu's sword. At this moment, the red dust lotus behind Yin Qingyun also bloomed. Sword Qi pierced towards Mu Yu. Mu Yu waved the shadow clone sword in his hand and blocked Jiang Shangqiu's soul bead. A berserk aura swept out. Muyu felt a huge force coming from his hand. It was as if a huge mountain had smashed into his arm. It made him feel very uncomfortable. Jiang Shangqiu's strength was far above his. However, Muyu couldn't help but be on guard. His left hand also drew an 8 trigrams rune. The Tai Chi, Yin, and Yang appeared and welcomed Yin Xingyun's sword. However, after blocking the attacks of these two people, there was still Xiang Higuan, a person whose strength was comparable to an 8-stage tribulation passing stage cultivator. Xiang Higuan arrived behind Muyu. The white soul bead transformed into ghostly hands that grabbed towards Muyu's back. Chua! A golden rune flashed on Muyu's back. The so close, yet worlds apart appeared and blocked Xiang Higuan's ghostly hands. However, at this moment, Xiang Higuan's cultivation was far above Muyu's. With a palm strike, the power was extremely strong. It shattered the so close, yet worlds apart formation and struck Muyu's back. Puchi! Muyu's blood and chi surged. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. With a furious roar, the 8 trigrams rune in his left hand flashed, and a black and white dragon appeared, forcing Yin Xingyun back. He also quickly escaped and landed on top of a roof. Facing the pincer attack of 3 tribulation passing stage cultivators, Muyu was unable to use Firmament's sword intent. He had already suffered a great loss. However, Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Higuan didn't give Muyu a chance to catch his breath. The white soul bead flew over and grew in the wind. It turned into a 100-zhong large ball and smashed towards Muyu. Muyu didn't have time to hesitate. He leaped away again, and the huge soul bead rolled down. Boom! The place where Muyu was standing just now had a deep hole smashed by the soul bead. All the houses within 1,000 meters were razed to the ground and turned into nothingness. Muyu's figure appeared in the air again. However, Jiang Shangqiu had already calculated where Muyu would appear. His speed was faster than Muyu's. He directly sent out a palm strike and smashed onto Muyu's body. Muyu was directly smashed into the house, creating a deep hole in the ground. Chapter 951. Just as Yin Xingyun's red lotus image fell into a cloud of dust, countless tree branches sprung up from the ground. These tree branches stirred up waves, and leaves that filled the sky surrounded the red lotus image. Muyu's figure once again leaped into the sky. However, this time, he was seriously injured and could barely stand. Muyu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Facing the pincer attack of these 3 people, it was still too difficult for him to fight alone. Then what should we do? Crush the jade pendant and escape? Xiao Shuai asked anxiously. In a battle of the tribulation stage, Xiao Shuai couldn't use the wind-wind heart-linking formation to help because the opponents were too strong. We can't escape. The formation pattern produced by the jade pendant has a delay of a breath. It's enough for the 3 of them to break the formation pattern and stop us. Muyu shook his head. The current situation was not optimistic. Although Yin Xingyun's strength was not as good as his, it was extremely difficult for Muyu to deal with Jiang Shangqiu and Higuan alone, let alone the 3 of them working together. How did Big Sister Tian Ran become like this? Xiao Shuai looked at Tian Ran with vexation and anxiety. Although he liked to eat all day, he also liked Tian Ran very much. He didn't want Tian Ran to become an emotionless person. She shouldn't be like this. I must make her recover. Muyu looked at Tian Ran. Even though his body was filled with killing intent, he still felt a sense of loss in his heart. Tian Ran used herself to lure Muyu out and put Muyu in this predicament. However, Muyu wouldn't blame this girl because everything she did was forced by the people from the Sanchong Palace and the Red Dust sect. I still don't believe that you've lost your emotions. Muyu was very worried. He couldn't even protect himself now, but Tian Ran's matter affected his heart even more. It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. It's useless. Jiang Shangqiu and Higuan laughed as they surrounded him again. White soul power crisscrossed and reverberated in the sky above Chun'an City, destroying everything and causing the entire city to tremble slightly. All the survivors looked at the 2 of them in shock. Their soul power was too overbearing. Together, They sealed off all the escape routes of Muyu. Once again, the 8 trigrams formation pattern flashed under Muyu's feet. The formation pattern turned into a straight line, and the wind-wind-heart linking formation was formed. It wrapped around Jiang Shang, Qiu Xiang, and He Guan, trying to bring them into its formation. How can your current array techniques do anything to us? Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang, He Guan only trembled a little before they broke free from his array. Their current cultivation bases were much higher than Muyu's, so the wind-wind-heart linking array could not restrict their movements. Boom! The two of them, one in front and one behind, once again sent their powerful soul beads towards Muyu. Muyu could only barely block them before he was sent flying backwards. Blood splashed through the air once more as his aura grew weaker and weaker. Muyu flew backward for a while before slowly coming to a stop. He stood in the void and panted continuously. At that moment, he was trapped in Chun and City by a powerful soul power enchantment. Without the help of the opening ruins cauldron and the array hall, he couldn't use his sword intent. He only had the murderous aura around him and couldn't block the attacks of the 3 people. Little Shuai desperately waved his spiritual energy at the side to help Muyu heal his wounds. At the same time, the black and white spiritual energy in Muyu's body began to surge wildly. However, Muyu's injuries were too severe. It would take some time for him to fully recover. Let's see who can save you this time. Jiang Shangqiu and He Guan had set a trap for him. The entire city had turned into soul power to help Jiang Shangqiu and He Guan. His sword intent was cut off, and he was alone. Be good and surrender. Jiang Shangqiu laughed and gradually approached Muyu. He wanted to give Muyu the final blow. However, at this moment, a clear voice rang out. Stop! Tian Ran had already floated out and blocked in front of Jiang Shangqiu. Muyu looked up at Tian Ran, who was standing in front of him. However, Tian Ran was still expressionless. There was only a faint murderous aura, which made Muyu feel unfamiliar. His life is mine. Tian Ran's voice didn't have any fluctuations. Muyu's eyes dimmed. He smiled bitterly in his heart. There was no way he could escape today. If he could die in Tian Ran's hands, it would be an extremely good thing. However, he was still very unwilling. Why did the pure and innocent girl of the past become like this? Jiang Shangqiu stopped. He looked coldly at Tian Ran and then nodded. The red dust sect's red dust lotus technique is the highest realm. I almost forgot about this. All right, he can't do anything now. You can go and kill him. Then you can sever all your emotions, pass the heart tribulation, and achieve the supreme red dust lotus body. In the future, you will work even harder for us. Jiang Shangqiu agreed to Tian Ran's request. Tian Ran slowly walked in front of Muyu. She had already pulled out the Immortal Dew sword in her hand. The sword light was like water, cold and decisive. You're being controlled by the divine soul array, aren't you? Muyu looked at Tian Ran. He wanted to see something from Tian Ran's eyes. The murderous aura slowly dissipated from his body. He wanted to face Tian Ran with his true appearance. He didn't want to become cold and unfeeling. He tried his best to restore his former appearance and aura, hoping to awaken the current Tian Ran. Muyu, you're wrong. Tian Ran doesn't need to be controlled by the divine soul array. As long as she cultivates the red dust lotus technique, she will use the red dust sect as her center. Everything she does will start from the red dust sect. As long as it's for the red dust sect, there's nothing wrong with killing her parents. Yin Qingyun let out a cold laugh. If I can live today, I will definitely destroy the red dust sect. Anger burned in Muyu's heart. To destroy the most primitive human emotions, to turn a pure girl into someone who didn't recognize her own family, to the point where she could even forget her parents. What was the meaning of such a sect? I won't give you the chance to live. Tian Ran looked at Muyu and stabbed with the Immortal Dew sword in her hand. That stab was very decisive, without any hesitation. It was as if the young man in front of her was an unpardonable evil person who should die under her sword. Pucci, blood splattered. The Immortal Dew sword had already pierced through Muyu's chest, stabbing into his heart. Muyu didn't dodge. He couldn't dodge. His face was very haggard. He didn't think that Tian Ran would really stab him with her sword. In order to pass her heart tribulation, she had stabbed out with a sure-kill sword. "And have you passed your heart tribulation?" Muyu bitterly smiled. He gasped for breath and looked into Tian Ran's eyes. Bright red blood dripped down the immortal Du's sword, reflecting in Tian Ran's eyes. It was a ghastly sight. "Chi!" Tian Ran pulled out the immortal Du's sword and frowned slightly. Muyu's face became even paler. "Why? I should have passed my heart tribulation." A trace of confusion appeared in Tian Ran's eyes. She had stabbed Muyu's heart, and the sword Chi had already invaded Muyu's body. Muyu couldn't survive, and she should have passed her heart tribulation. However, Tian Ran didn't feel any epiphany, nor did she step into the transcending tribulation realm. "Because killing me isn't the way to pass your heart tribulation." Muyu's figure suddenly turned into fragments of array patterns. When he reappeared, he was already behind Tian Ran. Suddenly, the so close, yet worlds apart, and the mirror image array appeared again. At the same time, he used the power of slaughter to suppress Tian Ran. Array illusion. Damn it, how could this be? Jiang Shankyu and Xiang Higuan were both shocked and furious. They didn't think that Muyu could use an illusion array at this time to deceive everyone. Chapter 952. A formation pattern suddenly appeared beneath Muyu's feet and enveloped Tian Ran. The formation pattern instantly transformed into an illusion. He had to create an illusion formation to let Tian Ran resuscitation. As long as Tian Ran experienced the past again, she would definitely be able to remember who she was. The formation pattern began to circulate. They arrived at Dragon Tiger Gorge and watched the memories as bystanders. Gue Xianhua wanted to kill Feng Haochen, but Tian Ran stepped forward at that time and blocked that sword strike for Feng Haochen. At first, Muyu found Tranquil's actions inexplicable, but in the end, she found out why Tranquil did it. "For my master, for your father, you could risk your life. You could forget about me, but why have you even forgotten about him?" Muyu asked in a trembling voice. Muyu wanted Tian Ran to know what Feng Haochen meant to her. He was someone she could risk her life to protect. He was the father she had thought about day and night since she was a child. But Tian Ran said indifferently, "Let go of me. I would never do such a thing." She desperately tried to break free from Muyu's control, but Muyu used the last of his strength to prevent Tian Ran from breaking free. "Have you forgotten?" Muyu gritted his teeth. Tian Ran had snuck out of the Red Dust sect because Miao Yin told her that her father was in the Moyun mountain range and was doing something great. She had searched for so long, but in that moment of crisis, she found her father and blocked that sword strike for her father. But now that the memories were replayed, Tian Ran said that she would never do such a thing. "I don't believe it." Muyu refused to give up. The scene changed, and his formation pattern continued to circulate. It was Chengyin's wedding. It was also the time when Muyu had completely let go of Lan Ling. Tian Ran comforted Muyu with all kinds of irrelevant words. She didn't know anything, but she pretended to know everything to comfort Muyu. She wanted to use her own way to make Muyu happy. "Have you forgotten what you said to me?" Muyu asked softly. Tian Ran had happily played in the bridal chamber during his senior brother's wedding. Muyu wanted to use the atmosphere of the wedding to make Tian Ran feel warm and happy, but a trace of anger appeared in Tian Ran's eyes. "I would never say such things." Muyu clenched his fists. The illusion returned to the day when Muyu and Tian Ran were about to leave Luochen Mountain. The two of them were still looking at the familiar memories as bystanders. Facing her father, Ning Ran was extremely reluctant to part with him. Her father was going to do something, and that was to live and die with the entire Moyun mountain range. She didn't want this unexpected daughter of hers to bring trouble to Feng Haochen. Tian Ran didn't dare to call Feng Haochen dad. She knew that the person in front of her was her father, but she still called him Uncle Feng. She didn't want to interfere with what her father was going to do. When she hugged her father in the end, she held back her tears. Only when she turned around did the tears fall. Back then, You were so eager to reunite with your father. Even after spending a year with him, you didn't dare to call him father. So, why have you forgotten him now? Muyu asked in a trembling voice. Ning Ran looked at the illusion in front of her. She looked at the words that her other self had said to Feng Haochen. Her clear and cold eyes suddenly rippled as if a stone had fallen into them. This time she didn't open her mouth to speak. I will let you know all my memories. You are not a heartless person. You should be a simple girl. You shouldn't cultivate that inhumane cultivation method. Muyu's body trembled. He didn't believe that this simple girl would forget all her feelings. The scene changed again and brought them to 8 Grass Village. They looked at the scene in front of them as bystanders. The words were clear as day, as if everything had happened yesterday. That's right, I like Muyu Gij. Tian Ran bravely expressed her feelings for Muyu in front of so many people. At that time, Muyu was being attacked by the cultivation world. However, Tian Ran always believed in him and believed that he was innocent. There seemed to be some ripples in her calm and indifferent eyes. I like Muyu Gij. Muyu Gij. Tian Ran's lips moved. Her cold eyes seemed to melt as they glowed with a strange light. Muyu's heart suddenly felt like it was being squeezed by someone. That familiar call of Muyu Gij made him see hope. The formation runes around them moved again and brought the two of them to Luo Chin Mountain. They were brought to the tree on Luo Chin Mountain. Tian Ran pressed Muyu against the tree trunk. She personally taught Muyu how to use the tree trunk to chase after Lan Ling Er. It was an ignorant youth who had just fallen in love and an innocent girl who didn't know anything about the world. That girl didn't have any experience in love. She only heard her senior sisters talking about men. She imitated them and taught Muyu how to chase after a girl. At that time, Muyu foolishly believed her. This time, they were no longer looking at the memory from the perspective of a bystander. Instead, both of them participated in the memory. At this time, they seemed to have returned to that time and place. Muyu's back was against the tree. Tian Ran's hand was on the tree trunk. The tree trunk trembled. Have you really forgotten all of this? Have you forgotten to teach me how to use the tree trunk to chase after Lan Ling? Muyu's eyes were filled with unconcealable tenderness. He liked that moment. At that time, they were very innocent. Everything they did was so silly and naive. But it was also this silly action that made the relationship between them seem so beautiful. There was no extra pretentiousness because they were only 15 or 16 years old children. They didn't know anything at all. Everything they thought and did was very pure. Tree trunk, a ripple appeared in tranquil sighs, and there was even a trace of confusion. She didn't understand why she was in this position with Muyu, why she had pressed Muyu against the tree trunk, and why they dared to be so close to each other, so close that they could hear each other's breathing. Yes, you said you were going to teach me how to chase after Lan Ling Er. This is the method you taught me. You said this was your trump card. Muyu said softly. He tried to make his voice not tremble. But I later found out that you were the girl I like, Muyu continued. He couldn't learn the method Tian Ran taught him at that time. He didn't do it all. But perhaps from that time, Tian Ran had quietly entered Muyu's heart. At that time, the two of them looked at each other for a moment. Both of their ignorant hearts palpitated. Now, the two of them were looking at each other. Muyu hoped to let Tian Ran find the feeling at that time. You like me? Tian Ran was still in the same position. She was still pressing Muyu against the tree trunk. She seemed to be recalling something, but she also seemed to be unable to remember. All of this seemed familiar yet strange. You said before that when doing this, pay attention to the other person's eyes. The gaze must be sharp and show a trace of ruffian feeling. There must also be a trace of love that is easy to catch. The impulse to possess the other person. Muyu squeezed out a smile. But now, he could no longer reveal that ruffian aura. His gaze could no longer become sharp. It was as if the older he grew, the more time washed away his immaturity. He was no longer a simple youth. He could no longer pretend to be young and inexperienced like he used to be. But his eyes were full of love when he looked at Tian Ran. He never wanted to possess this girl. He only wanted to protect her. He wanted to see her smile innocently every day. He wanted her to be a carefree girl. She would smile when she was happy and make faces when she was unhappy. Think about it carefully. You will definitely remember. Muyu wanted to reach out and touch Tian Ran's face. But at this time, a huge force came crashing down. Bang! All of the illusions were shattered by Jiang Shankyu. Jiang Shankyu once again struck Muyu's shoulder, sending Muyu flying. No! Muyu roared. As long as he had a little more time, just a little more time, he would definitely be able to make Tian Ran remember who he was. But all of this was destroyed by Jiang Shankyu. All of the illusions that Muyu had created were shattered and turned into nothingness. Chapter 9:53. Tian Ran stretched out her finger and brushed away the blood on her face. She stared at the drop of blood in a daze. It was a drop of blood that made her heart tremble. Big Brother Muyu, Jian Ing Chun Feng. Father, Tian Ran suddenly muttered these words. Tian Ran looked at the figure that flew out. It was as if a string in her mind had been touched. It was familiar yet strange. Those dusty memories flashed past quickly, forming a warm picture in Tian Ran's mind. It was as if a stone had been thrown into the calm lake, splashing countless memories. After cultivating the highest level of the red dust lotus mantra, she had become a person without any desires. She had even forgotten that she had a mother, a father, and a person who liked her and liked her. Jiang Shankyu had already summoned the suspense mirror again, wanting to deal the final blow to Muyu. However, Tian Ran had already moved. Stop! A green veil streaked across the sky. Tian Ran had already blocked in front of Muyu and helped Muyu up. Muyu looked at Tian Ran. Tian Ran also looked at Muyu. The familiar emotions seemed to have returned to their eyes. Their gazes were like water, connecting the two of them together. Do you know how to overcome your heart tribulation? Muyu squeezed out a smile. Tian Ran's eyes sparkled with tears. It was as if all the emotions had returned to her heart. Big Brother Muyu. Tian Ran tightly hugged Muyu. The way she called him seemed to have settled down for many years. At this moment, it poured out in torrents. It was pure and beautiful. It was as if she had returned to the pure elf-like girl of the past. Muyu also tightly hugged Tian Ran. He really wanted to hug this pure girl and never let go. I'm sorry. I should have gone to find you earlier. Muyu's heart was filled with guilt. He originally had a lot of things to say to Tian Ran, but when Tian Ran recovered her emotions, he seemed to be unable to say anything. However, Yen Xingyun's expression had already changed greatly. Tian Ran, what are you doing? Quickly kill him. Only then can you pass through your own heart tribulation and step into the crossing tribulation stage. Yen Xingyun angrily shouted. Tian Ran let go of Muyu and turned to look at Yen Xingyun. Her pure eyes were filled with anger. It's you. You used my mother to force me to cultivate the mortal world emotionless mantra. I remembered everything. You made me forget about my family and the people I liked just to make me become a heartless person. The immortal dew sword in Tian Ran's hand flickered with a clear light, pointing directly at Yen Xingyun. We're doing this for your own good. Only by cultivating the red dust arts can you inherit the position of the red dust sect leader. Your mother has already made a mistake once. Are you going to make another mistake? Why aren't you killing this man and passing through your heart tribulation? Yen Xingyun sternly shouted. Tian Ran slowly said, Do you know how I'm going to pass through my heart tribulation? After she reached the 9th level of the unification stage, after she sorted out her heart tribulation, she only said the 2 words Muyu. Yen Xingyun brought her to various cities in the name of the sect's disciple recruitment. She joined forces with the 2 people from the Sanchong Palace to lure Muyu out and hand him over to Tian Ran so that she could cut off her feelings and pass through her heart tribulation. Kill him, and you can pass through your heart tribulation. You can become the first successor of the Red Dust sect. This is how you pass through your heart tribulation. Yen Xingyun shouted. Tian Ran shook her head. I'm not going to kill him. I'm going to find him and hear him say something to me. It's something I've always wanted to hear. Tian Ran looked at Muyu again. Back then, she had boldly said that she liked Muyu in front of everyone, but Muyu had never personally replied to her. She wanted to know what Mu Yu's feelings were. Mu Yu knew that Tian Ran wanted to get an answer from him. It was something that he should have said to Tian Ran a few years ago in Eight Grass Village. "Do you like me?" Tranquil asked, her clear eyes sparkling. Mu Yu smiled. His smile was very sunny, as if it could melt ice and snow. "I like you. I should have told you long ago. I've always liked you," Mu Yu said softly. Tian Ran also revealed a pure smile. This was the answer she wanted to hear. She closed her eyes, and the aura in her body rippled nonstop. It was as if something that had been blocked for a long time was slowly undulating. It began to wander around her body, widening her meridians and bringing her into a wonderful state. A red dust lotus appeared behind tranquility. It was elegant and pure, making tranquility seem otherworldly and ethereal. "This is..." Yin Qingyun was stunned. She didn't think that Tian Ran would directly break through her heart tribulation after hearing Mu Yu's words. She began to form her true body. However, after seeing what had happened to Tian Ran, Yin Qingyun couldn't feel happy at all. That was because Tian Ran recalled the feelings that had been sealed away and became a normal person again. A person who hadn't cut off their desires couldn't take on the great responsibility of the Red Dust sect leader. "No, I have to wait until Tian Ran successfully reaches the tribulation passing stage. Then I have to bring her back and let her cultivate the Red Dust emotionless art again." Yin Qingyun's expression was very ugly. "While Tian Ran is undergoing her tribulation, let's capture Mu Yu directly," Village Higuan said. Jiang Shangqiu and Village Higuan were already heading towards Mu Yu. However, at that moment, a huge golden lotus bloomed and formed a thick barrier, enveloping Mu Yu. At the same time, a tribulation passing stage aura spread out from the lotus, blocking Jiang Shangqiu and Village Higuan. "Tian Ran, what are you doing?" Yin Qingyun angrily shouted. Within the lotus, Tian Ran happily looked at Mu Yu. It was as if she had returned to the innocent and carefree days of the past. Her fingertips moved, and a dazzling brilliance entered Mu Yu's body. This brilliance was incomparably pure and contained a vigorous spiritual power. It quickly healed the wounds on Mu Yu's body. "Big brother Mu Yu, I'm very happy. I'm very happy to be able to see you." Tian Ran stretched out her other hand and caressed Mu Yu's face. In her eyes, there was only Mu Yu's figure left. The youth that had been in her dreams had faded away and become a handsome and mature youth. However, he still made Tian Ran so happy. "Tian Ran, if we can escape from Chunin City, I swear I will definitely go to the Red Dust sect and help you get revenge. The Red Dust sect destroyed your mother. I can't let the Red Dust sect destroy you again." Mu Yu looked at Tian Ran and felt the warmth of Tian Ran's fingertips. That gentle spiritual power wandered in Mu Yu's body and dispersed the murderous aura in his body. "You will definitely escape." Tian Ran's eyes were filled with mist, hazy and elegant. "Because I will help you escape." Tian Ran smiled. Mu Yu was startled. He vaguely felt that something was wrong. However, at this moment, Tian Ran's spiritual power suddenly spread throughout Mu Yu's body and imprisoned Mu Yu. "Tian Ran, what are you doing?" Mu Yu anxiously said. Tian Ran shook her head. "I'm sorry, big brother Mu Yu. This is the only way I can help you escape." "Big sister Tian Ran, don't!" Little Shuai suddenly exclaimed. In the next moment, Mu Yu understood what Tian Ran was going to do. Tian Ran's body emitted a golden light, and a lotus shadow rose from the ground. For a moment, Tian Ran's aura suddenly became very strong, faintly overshadowing Jiang Shangqiu, Xiang, and Iguan. Her entire body seemed to be burning with golden flames. She was burning her own life. Mu Yu looked at Tian Ran in shock and anger. "No, don't do this. We will definitely find a way out. Don't do anything stupid." He looked at the golden flames on Tian Ran's body and panicked. He wanted to stop Tian Ran, but he was seriously injured. Tian Ran's spiritual power also bound him, making it impossible for him to move. Tian Ran's eyes were full of tenderness. "Big brother Mu Yu, I led you here. I also want to guarantee that you can leave here, because I know that you still have a lot of things to do. Promise me that you will save my father, and then save my mother. They should be together. In the illusion that Muyu gave her, she already knew everything. She knew that her father had fallen into the hands of the Sanchon Palace. No, no, no. Nothing can happen to you. Nothing can happen to you. I won't allow anything to happen to you. Muyu roared. The power of slaughter spread throughout his body, contending with Tian Rant's spiritual power. He wanted to break free from Tian Rant's spiritual power. He wanted to stop Tian Rand from doing this. Big Brother Muyu, I am very happy to be able to see you one last time. Tian Rand tiptoed and kissed Muyu lightly on the lips. That touch of tenderness was soul-stirring. No, I don't want to see you die. Muyu's eyes were red, but the golden flames on Tian Rant's body were so strong that they firmly suppressed Muyu. Not only that, the golden flames turned into a bit of pure life force that spread through Muyu's body, suppressing the rampaging power of slaughter in his body. I'm not dead. I will live in your heart. Tian Rant's hand slid to Muyu's chest. She sweetly smiled and then turned around. The golden lotuses around her body were covered in golden flames. That was Tian Rant's life essence burning. These golden flames were incomparably powerful and reflected in everyone's eyes. They seemed so inviolable. Yin Xingyun loudly shouted, "No, Tian Ran, quickly stop." She had already rushed towards Tian Ran, wanting to stop Tian Rant's actions. She knew what the golden flames on Tian Rant's body meant. That was the forbidden technique of the red dust lotus arts. It burned one's own life force to ignite the golden lotuses and forcibly raise one's cultivation to the 9th celestial layer of the tribulation passing stage. However, Tian Ran only waved her hand and repelled Yin Xinyan. She faced Jiang Shangxiu and Higuan. The golden flames on her body actually made Jiang Shangxiu and Higuan not dare to approach her. They looked at Tian Ran in shock. That was the burning of life force. The flame of life was the nemesis of soul power, and it was also their nemesis. Their soul power was obtained from the dead, so there was no way they could resist this flame of life. Big Brother Muyu, I want to protect you. Tian Ran turned to look at Muyu one last time. Her eyes were filled with reluctance. She really wanted to be together with her big brother Muyu forever. They could play together happily and wander the world without any worries. However, she couldn't. She wanted to protect Big Brother Muyu. She wanted to protect the person she loved. Fire Lotus Brilliant Moon. Chapter 954. The golden lotuses that filled the sky began to burn. The golden flames wrapped around Tian Ran and illuminated the entire Chan'an city. The light blossomed and ignited the spiritual energy. The huge golden lotus under Tian Rant's feet instantly dispersed. Every lotus petal was burning and turned into a golden flame that gathered on the immortal dew sword in Tian Rant's hand. The immortal dew sword was instantly tainted by the golden flames. It pulsed with life, energy, and integrated into the sword chi. The colorful light shone on Tian Ran. Her expression was so resolute that her entire person had already soared into the sky. The fire lotus floated, and the sword chi covered the flames. It flew towards the bright red soul power barrier above Chan'an city. "No, little commander, stop her! Stop her!" Muyu roared in grief and indignation. His eyes turned red. He would not allow anything to happen to Tian Ran. However, just as little commander rushed out, he was also forced back by Tian Ran's flames. No one could get close to Tian Ran at this moment. She was using her life to open a path for Muyu. She wanted the person she loved to live on. A terrifying power engulfed Muyu's entire body. The black and white yin and yang in his body had already split apart in an instant. It flowed quickly and broke through Tian Rant's flame of life. He regained his ability to move. The chaotic yin and yang wrapped around his body and brought him towards Tian Ran. However, the golden lotus under Tian Rant's feet shone brightly again and forced Muyu to retreat. Muyu did not have any ability to get close. "Big Brother Muyu, promise me that you will live on. A teardrop floated out from the corner of Tian Rant's eyes. However, the teardrop also ignited in the air and turned into a golden flame. The immortal Dew sword in her hand carried an indomitable sword chi and blasted onto the soul power barrier. Voila! The indestructible soul power barrier was set ablaze by Tian Rant's flames of life. The flame was like the world's most beautiful elegy, burning the entire sky. The entire sky of Chun and city was illuminated by Tian Rant's flame of life. It was breathtaking and magnificent. Brother Muyu, you can leave now. The flames on Tian Rant's body slowly dimmed. Her life was gradually coming to an end, but she didn't regret it at all. She had put Muyu in danger. To be able to burn her own life, to save Muyu was her greatest wish. No, Muyu's heart was empty. He stared blankly at the burning girl in the sky. The flames gradually burned out, and the vitality in Tian Rant's body also gradually disappeared. The passing of life was so clear, it was as if Muyu's heart had been hollowed out in an instant. Tian Rant's body fell from the sky like a kite with a broken string. She drew an arc and fell into Muyu's arms. No, I don't want you to die. Muyu lowered his head and muttered to Tian Ran. But I hope you live even more, Brother Muyu. Tian Rant's eyelids were very heavy. She reached out her hand to wipe away Muyu's tears and squeezed out a smile. If you die, then what's the point of me living? Muyu was heartbroken. His whole body was trembling. Tears had already soaked his eyes. His eyes became blood red. Brother Muyu, don't cry. Last time you said that it's fine as long as you're happy in this world. All tears are pretentious pretense. Tian Ran smiled. She used the last bit of life in her body to smile. So I hope that, Brother Mu, you can live happily. The pure golden lotus would eventually wither. The tenderness was also gone with the wind. The golden lotus in the sky gradually disappeared. No, don't leave me. Muyu's heart felt as if it had been torn apart and couldn't heal. However, Tian Rant's eyes had already slowly closed. Her hand gradually fell. She still had a smile on her face because she protected the person she loved. Muyu looked at Tian Ran. His mind was blank. Why? Why did you do this? He was trembling. His whole body was trembling. He hated that he was powerless. He hated that he didn't have the ability to protect anyone. Deadwood Daddy died for him. Tian Ran also died for him. It had always been others who died for him. He couldn't accept it. He really couldn't accept it. I won't allow you to leave me. Muyu crazily roared. His voice was like a demon god shaking the heavens and the earth. The rolling airwaves spread throughout the entire Chun and city. The murderous aura was tyrannical, eroding the ninth heaven-sealing demon array in his body. He could have broken this array long ago. However, because Deadwood Daddy's soul had not been restored, he didn't break this array. However, he had to save Tian Ran now. No matter what, he had to save Tian Ran. Muyu's consciousness had already sunk into his body. He found Gomong, who had broken free from a seal. Save her, Muyu crazily roared. Life and death only happen once for everyone. Tian Ran has already been resurrected once. This time, I can't resurrect her. Gomong calmly said. He didn't feel happy because he had broken free from the seal. Life and death only happen once for everyone. When they were in the Maoyun mountain range, Tian Ran blocked Gue Xuanyue's sword for her father. Muyu had already resurrected her using life and death in the blink of an eye. He couldn't use it again. Muyu was stunned. No, I don't believe it. Muyu's consciousness returned to his body. He angrily roared like a raging beast. He wanted to forcibly borrow Gomong's ability. If Gomong refused to use Gomong's ability, Muyu wouldn't be able to use it. However, Gomong surprisingly didn't refuse Muyu this time. Muyu's left eye flashed with an endless white light. The vitality in the white light was like a surging river. It poured into Tian Ran's body. However, when the white light came into contact with Tian Ran's body, it didn't have any effect. This heaven-defying domain couldn't resurrect Tian Ran. Tian Ran's body was still lifeless. There was no sign of resuscitation. Why is this happening? Why? Muyu hugged Tian Ran tightly. His heart was bleeding. That innocent girl used her life to protect the person she loved. She didn't care about anything else. She only knew that her big brother Mu Yu couldn't die here because of her. However, she didn't know that her death made Mu Yu fall into despair. Mu Yu suddenly raised his head and looked at Jiang Shangqiu, He Xiang, and He Guan in the distance. The hatred in his heart was on the verge of erupting. He went crazy. I want you to die. Mu Yu's right eye suddenly shot out a powerful black light. It was like the sigh of the Grim Reaper. Wherever it went, there was no vitality left. Death filled the air. It was as if hell had descended upon the human world. Despair filled the wilderness. Even the spiritual energy was shattered by this powerful aura. However, Jiang Shangqiu and He Guan had already spread out and dodged the black light from Mu Yu's right eye. The two of them were always on guard against Mu Yu. He Guan had already started to form a seal. White soul power swept out. The city walls of Chun and City began to emit white light again. The enchantment was about to be activated again. Voila! The dragon scales in Mu Yu's hand spread out. The domain power suddenly gushed out and shrouded the entire Chun and City. This domain power shattered everyone's courage. Whether it was Jiang Shangqiu or He Guan, both of them looked at Mu Yu in horror. In their eyes, Mu Yu was incomparably tall. He was like a giant mountain. They couldn't even think of resisting. The Green Dragon Demon King's domain, the unique and righteous. Mu Yu seemed to have become the only venerable in the world in this domain. He looked down on the world, and no one could defeat him. Even though Jiang Shangqiu and He Guan had obtained the soul power of tens of thousands of people in Chun and City, and their cultivation had reached the tribulation passing stage, they couldn't resist this domain power. They wanted to make a move, but the white soul beads were floating in front of their chests. They couldn't make a move no matter what. They had already lost the thought of fighting Mu Yu in this domain. Mu Yu was like an undefeatable killing god. He just stood there. With a wave of his hand, the whole world seemed to be shattered. Jiang Shangqiu and He Guan were intimidated by the Green Dragon Demon King's domain power and didn't dare to make a move. However, Mu Yu's shadow clone sword was already raised high. Tens of thousands of sword chi shot out from the shadow clone sword and disappeared into the sky. The majestic sword chi stirred up the entire sky. The wind and clouds moved. With the sword chi as the center, it kept spinning. Above the sky, the sword chi gathered and merged into Mu Yu's shadow clone sword. The sword chi crisscrossed. When the sword slashed down, it destroyed the void. It was unstoppable. The majestic heavenly sword tore through the void with a murderous aura. The violent aura was intimidating, causing the entire ground to shake. Jiang Shangqiu and He Guan widened their eyes in horror. They had already thought of retreating. They wanted to leave this place. However, the domain power seemed to have suppressed their will to move. They wanted to block this sword chi, but that sword chi was like the wrath of the heavens. They couldn't dodge it. Boom! The sword chi instantly drowned Jiang Shangqiu and He Guan. Even Yin Qingyun couldn't escape. That sword destroyed heaven and earth. It destroyed Jiang Shangqiu and He Guan's hope of escaping. In the blink of an eye, they were shredded into pieces by the sword chi. Even their souls couldn't struggle free. The sword chi annihilated the three of them. It slashed the people from the Red Dust sect and slashed down on Chun and City. Half of Chun and City was instantly turned into ashes. It was razed to the ground. Nothing was left. The city walls, houses, streets, everything disappeared. Only a tens of thousands of feet long crack was left on the ground. It was a ghastly sight. The remaining people in the distance were shocked by this sword. That sword chi that came from the heavens was like the punishment of the heavens. No one could block it. The sword chi gradually dissipated. The domain of the unique and righteous, also disappeared. Mu Yu's spiritual power had long been exhausted. However, his other hand was still tightly hugging Tian Ran. He hugged this innocent and silly girl. He hugged his lover who burned her life to break the soul power barrier. He stared blankly at Tian Ran. The person in his embrace could no longer smile happily at him. She could no longer call him Big Brother Mu Yu. He liked the way she called him Big Brother Mu Yu. because Tian Rant's voice was like the most beautiful song in the world. It made his heart jump with joy. However, there was nothing left now. Deadwood Daddy was gone. Tian Ran was also gone. Muyu couldn't do anything. He could only watch them leave one by one for him. Tian Ran, have you thought about what you mean to me? He reached out and smoothed Tian Rant's long hair. His hands gently brushed past Tian Rant's cheeks. He hoped so much that the person in his embrace was just sleeping. She could open her eyes at any time and happily call him Big Brother Muyu. However, the body of the person in his embrace had gradually turned cold. There was no sign of life. Just like Muyu's heart, it was as cold as ice. You are the silly girl that I am willing to use my life to protect. Chapter 955. The 8 trigrams array pattern appeared under Muyu's feet. His hands quickly drew the array pattern. What was shocking was that every array pattern he drew was made of blood. It looked extremely strange. Muyu, you can't do this, little Shuai said hesitantly. He knew what Muyu was going to do. The only way to save Tian Ran was to use blood shrouding the heavens. I have to save her. Muyu didn't stop. His hands were still drawing runes at lightning speed. Bright red blood began to revolve around tranquility. Little Shuai said, but the life flowing in your body is Deadwood's. Do you want to revive Tian Ran or revive Deadwood? Muyu's hand stopped in the air. He suddenly realized that the life in his body belonged to Deadwood Daddy. Tian Rant's death had almost made him lose his mind. He had almost forgotten such an important thing. What should I do? Muyu clenched his fists. His heart was in pain, but Tian Ran was right in front of him. He couldn't just watch Tian Ran die. I can let her live. Gomong's voice sounded in Muyu's mind. Muyu was stunned. Help me, Muyu begged. I can save her, but what can you do for me? Gomong asked calmly. What do you want? Muyu asked. Her body, Gomong said slowly. Muyu gritted his teeth. I can't give you that yet. Gomong chuckled. I don't need it now. There are many things you want to do. You even want to save Deadwood Daddy. I have to say, I do owe him a favor. If Muyu had been swallowed by the death aura, even Gomong wouldn't have been able to break free. That was because the death aura was too strong. Gomong, who was sealed at that time, couldn't resist at all. Also, my life will be returned to Deadwood Daddy. Before I revive Deadwood Daddy, I won't give you my body, Muyu said. So, we have to make a deal. What deal? Gomong said slowly. You have to understand one thing. The two of us are inseparable. You didn't die because of my reincarnation, so once I leave your body, you will die. But right now, I'm very weak. If I leave your body, I won't be able to live long in this state. So, before I leave your body, you have to find someone who can withstand my power. Where do I go to find that person? Muyu said in a low voice. You have already seen it. It is the Blood Lotus. It has gained sentience, which means it has the ability to withstand my power. Right now, it is probably under the control of the Triple Palace and has become a tool of the Triple Palace. So, I need you to capture it, Gomong said. Okay, I will capture the Blood Lotus, Muyu said without hesitation. In order to save Tian Ran and Deadwood Daddy, he was willing to do anything. You have to think carefully. This is a sure death situation. You will die in the end. If you return your life to Deadwood, this body of yours will be useless to me. The two of us were originally one. Originally, we couldn't be separated. However, the appearance of the Blood Lotus made me see the possibility of separation. So, before you revive Deadwood Evergreen, you have to capture the Blood Lotus. Otherwise, I won't let you use the ability to blink between life and death, Gomong said. Okay, Muyu had never been a person who was afraid of death. He was originally a person who should have died at birth. It was only because of various causes and effects that he was able to live until now. To him, death was not scary. There were many people in this world that he could exchange their lives for. Hurry up and save Tian Ran, Muyu said anxiously. I need to take control of your body. Don't resist and don't use your killing power. Muyu occupied the dominant consciousness of this body. Now that Muyu's was very strong, Gomong had to get Muyu's permission to do anything. Muyu emptied his mind and gave up control of his body. Ju Meng waved his hand in the air and an illusory airflow streaked across and landed on his hand. She died not too long ago. Her soul hasn't left her body yet, Gomong said. Souls could not be seen. They could only be made visible through certain special methods. For example, the souls refined by the people of the Gate of Hell, or the souls modified by the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, could only be seen under certain conditions. The girl did something unintentionally. She used a part of her life to suppress the killing aura in your body and help you recover. This part of her life is still burning in your body. So, I can extinguish this life flame again and turn it into life force. Then, I can inject it into Tian Rant's body. Gomong waved his hand, and a golden flame appeared in his hand. This flame gradually extinguished, turning into a green life force that gently circulated in his hand. Muyu looked at this weak life force and felt his heart ache. Tian Ran originally had a powerful life force, but because of him, it had been reduced to this. This bit of life force is not enough for her to live on, Muyu said gloomily. He was very sensitive to life force. I know. That's why I need to nurture this flame of life and let it slowly become stronger. Gomong tapped Tranquil Rant's forehead, and life force slowly flowed back into her body. How do I nurture it? Go find the ancestral Bodhi tree. You know where it is. The old tree will tell you what to do. Gomong returned the control of the body to Muyu. He did not have any other plans because he understood that in the current state, if Muyu wanted to resist, the control of the body would still be in the hands of Muyu. All right, Muyu regained control of the body. Without another word, the formation patterns under his feet flashed. He rushed out of Chunin City and quickly rushed towards Moyun Mountain Range. There were still more than 10,000 people in Chun and City who survived. These people were lucky as they were on the other side of Chun and City and were not affected by Muyu's sword aura. They were also not killed by Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Yiguan. They were considered survivors of a disaster. However, the shock in their hearts did not dissipate for a long time. This was because the identities of the few people who fought in the air were clear. One of them was Muyu, who was wanted by the cultivation world. Two of them were from the Red Dust sect, and the other two were from the Sanchong Palace. What they could not accept the most was that they saw the true faces of the people from the Sanchong Palace in this catastrophe. The appearance of the people from the Sanchong Palace frightened the survivors. Moreover, the people from the Sanchong Palace killed so many self-cultivators to create a barrier to trap Muyu. This incident had overturned the self-cultivators' understanding. Didn't the people from the Sanchong Palace lead everyone to fight against Yaman? Why did they do such a cruel thing? What are you waiting for? Leave this place quickly. It was unknown who shouted. All the survivors woke up and quickly fled Chunin City. They did not dare to stay in this troublesome place. A day had passed since the incident in Chunin City. This incident could not be hidden. A portion of the survivors chose to escape to the Wuqiu City, which was a relatively large city in the north of Chunin City. The survivors arrived at Wuqiu City. In less than a moment, the news of what happened in Chun and City spread. In a restaurant called Celestial Guest in Wuqiu City. Have you heard? Chun and City was massacred. A young man with a protruding mouth and monkey-like cheeks shouted in a sharp voice the moment he stepped into the restaurant. His voice was very unique. It was as if he was born to attract people. It spread throughout the entire restaurant and successfully attracted everyone's attention to himself. Lu San, Chunin City was massacred. What happened? Where did you hear this from? The restaurant owner obviously knew this young man with a protruding mouth and monkey-like cheeks. Restaurants were usually a place for self-cultivators to rest and gather information. People like Lu San were frequent customers of restaurants. They specialized in gathering information and spreading it back to the restaurant. In the cultivation world, a well-informed restaurant would attract more customers. The young man called Lu San said loudly, "Of course I heard it from the survivors of Chunin City. Good guy. I heard that half of Chunin City was destroyed by Muyu with a single slash of his sword." What? This matter has something to do with Muyu? So you're saying that Muyu is the culprit behind the destruction of Chunin City? The self-cultivators resting in the restaurant began to discuss. Now, the two words Muyu could be said to be a taboo in the cultivation world. Many people pricked up their ears when they heard the two words Muyu. This was because the Extreme Immortal Pavilion had offered a huge reward for finding Muyu's whereabouts. Everyone was very interested in the 10 million spirit stones. Wrong. This time Muyu is not the culprit. Lucen said slowly. If Muyu is not the culprit, who else could it be? The cultivator felt that it was a little strange and couldn't wait to know more inside information. However, Lucen swaggered to a table and sat down. He deliberately kept the cultivator in suspense and didn't continue speaking. Instead, he called the waiter to order a table full of dishes. "Hurry up and say it," a middle-aged nascent soul stage cultivator shouted. Lucen's cultivation was only in the Jindan period. After being shouted at by the middle-aged nascent soul stage cultivator, he shivered and didn't dare to keep them in suspense. He quickly said, "The culprit this time is said to be the people from the Triple Palace and the Red Dust sect. In order to trap Muyu, the Triple Palace and the Red Dust sect massacred tens of thousands of people to deal with Muyu." What? This was an important piece of news. Lucen's words gave everyone a fright. "Lucen, what nonsense are you talking about? The Triple Palace is our hope. You dare to slander the Triple Palace. Aren't you afraid of cutting off your tongue?" The manager scolded. This kind of news was simply too shocking. How could the threefold palace that was revered by tens of thousands of people do something like massacring cultivators? "You dare to slander the Triple Palace. Are you looking for death? I think this kid is tired of living." When Lucen saw that the others were hostile towards him, he quickly explained, "It's not up to me to decide whether I'm talking nonsense or not. You guys don't know, but just an hour ago, there were a few thousand cultivators and mortals who fled from Chunin City to here. These few thousand people escaped from death. The news came from them." Lucen emphasized and pushed the responsibility to the survivors of Chunin City. If anything happened in the future, it would have nothing to do with him because he didn't make it up. Chapter 956. Regarding this shocking news, in this era where Yumon made everyone panic, smearing the name of the Sanchong wasn't a wise thing to do. Everyone wouldn't easily believe Lucen's one-sided story. What they want to know more about was Muyu. What exactly is going on? Some self-cultivators had already begun to urge. Lucen was still worried and said, "Let me say this first. I only heard it from others. I didn't spread the rumor. You can decide who's right and who's wrong. Don't blame it on me." I know. Hurry up and explain everything clearly. What exactly is going on with Muyu?" The self-cultivators in the restaurant were about to lose their patience. "All right, then I'll tell everyone everything I know." Following that, Lucen passionately recounted how the people of the Sanchong appeared, how the mutation occurred, how they massacred the self-cultivators, created a barrier, and surrounded Muyu with the people of the Red Dust sect. Then, the Red Dust sect's heavenly lady sacrificed her life to save Muyu. He recounted everything clearly. It had to be said that this Lucen was indeed a genius. He only heard about it from the survivors, but when he spoke about it, it was as if he had experienced it himself. Even the majestic scene of the heavenly sword punishing evil was described in great detail. All sorts of exaggerated expressions, actions, and eloquent explanations shocked everyone. That's impossible. The Sanchong Palace still wants to lead us to kill Yaman. The Red Dust sect is also part of the 8 sects. How can they make a move on the people of Chunin City? An out-of-body red-faced man slammed the table and denied it outright. That's true, but hasn't anyone suspected one thing? Why do we only know about the existence of the Sanchong Palace, but have never seen what the people of the Sanchong Palace look like? Where are they? Have any of you seen anyone from the Threefold Palace? A white-haired old man pondered for a moment before asking. His words silenced the entire restaurant. This matter was indeed strange. If the Threefold Palace was the hope of the cultivation world, no one had heard anything about the Threefold Palace until now. It was only because the cultivation world had always heard that the Threefold Palace existed to fight against the Yumming Devil clan that everyone firmly believed in the Threefold Palace. Seeing that everyone was still in doubt, Lu San was worried that he would get himself into trouble. He quickly said, "I'll say it again. I'm not making this up. Whether it's true or not, you can ask the survivors in Chunin City. As for whether that person is from the Sanchon Palace, I don't know anything. I'm only responsible for spreading the news. I don't believe it. Where are the survivors? I'll go ask him myself." The red-faced man stood up and asked, "They should still be at the city gate. You can ask around, and you'll know." "Some of the survivors are said to have escaped to other cities," Lu San said. "You better not lie. Otherwise, you'll suffer." The red-faced man at the nascent soul stage seemed to be very respectful of the threefold palace. He couldn't accept this rumor. He had to verify it himself before he was satisfied. Then, he glared at Lu San fiercely and strode out of the restaurant. Lu San was also helpless under the stare, but he didn't care. He was originally hired by the shopkeeper to pass the news to the cultivators for the restaurant. As for what happened, it was likely that he wouldn't be blamed for it. Soon, there were all kinds of whispers in the restaurant. However, the middle-aged man in blue in the corner nodded thoughtfully. Then, he called the waiter and said, "Waiter, put these dishes into a food box for me. I want to take it away." "Yes, sir. Please wait for a moment. Our restaurant charges an extra 10 spirit stones for takeout boxes." "No problem." The waiter quickly put the dishes into bowls and plates and put them into a wooden box. Then, the middle-aged man in blue paid and left the restaurant with the little boy. The middle-aged man in blue was Tan Qingchuan, who was the first to stand up for Muyu in Dongsha City. The little boy next to him was little Qing Fan, who bravely questioned all the immortal masters. "Master, do you think it was really Brother Air Mao who did it?" Little Qing Fan asked anxiously. The Brother Air Mao he was talking about was naturally Muyu. Back then, little Shuai had fooled him and didn't say the names of the three of them. He only said a Mao, Air Mao, and San Mao. However, now that the cultivation realm was talking about Muyu slaughtering Dongsha City, little Qing Fan already knew the identity of the Brother Air Mao, but he still didn't change it out of habit. Tan Qingchuan shook his head slightly. "I'm not sure for now. You don't have to worry too much. You should be fine for now." The two of them turned into a small alley and arrived in front of a dilapidated courtyard. They pushed open the door and walked in. At this moment, there were 3 people huddled together and trembling. These 3 people were little Chun Shi's family who had been sent away by Muyu. "Sister Chun Shi, this is for you." Little Qing Fan took the food box from his master with difficulty and passed it to little Chun Shi's family. Thank you, thank you." Little Chun Shi's family looked to be starving. After thanking him with tears of gratitude, they started to wolf down the food. The incident in Chunin City happened yesterday. After little Chun Shi's family was sent away, they followed the directions left behind by Muyu and walked out of the mountain range. They originally wanted to return to Chunin City, but from afar, they saw that Chunin City had been destroyed. Therefore, they wisely came to Wuqiu City. However, because the incident happened so suddenly, the 3 of them did not have any money on them, and their stomachs were rumbling with hunger. Fortunately, Tan Qingchuan suddenly appeared with little Qing Fan and brought them here. Little Chun Shi's family of 3 quickly finished their meal. Tan Qingchuan then said, "Tell me everything that happened in Chunin City yesterday." "Yes, Immortal Master." Chun Shi's father immediately started to flatter him and told him what happened before he left yesterday. He said what happened before Chun and City was destroyed, and Lu San said what happened after the battle in Chunin City. When the 2 people's words were put together, the ins and outs of the whole thing was very clear. After Chun Shi's father finished, he said gratefully, "Immortal Master, thank goodness you passed by in time. Otherwise, our family would not know what to do now." It's okay. You all can settle down here first and clean up the house. Don't talk about what happened in Chunin City. Do you understand?" Tan Qingchuan smiled gently. "We understand." Chun Shi's parents hurriedly nodded. The 2 of them told Chun Shi to stay here and not run around. Very quickly, they walked into the house and cleaned up the house. Little Qing Fan had already pestered little Chun Shi and started to ask about his brother Air Mao. Tan Qingchuan sat on the chair in the courtyard and thought about something. "I'm still one step too late. Something happened to that girl. Then, where would Muyu go? Tan Xingchuan looked at little Qing Fan and Chen Shi. A blue light flashed across his eyes. Sanchong Palace. In the land of bejeweled jade, holy light enveloped the entire palace. It was like a fairyland, making people's hearts and minds wander. In a temple, it was bright and majestic. Pillars stood in the middle. These pillars were of different thickness and length. They were placed in a very strange position. From above, it seemed to form some kind of pattern. At this moment, the pillars were emitting rays of white light. These rays of light intersected in the air. Above the pillars, the landscape of the entire Sanchong continent was reflected. In these images, there were mountains and rivers. However, the cultivators and mortals that were hurrying on their way became white dots. Bai Jie stood beside these pillars. His brows were tightly knitted. It seemed like he was trying to find something from these white dots. However, he still had not succeeded. A figure flew in from outside the temple and respectfully knelt on the ground. "Master, there is news about Muyu." "Speak," Bai Jie coldly responded. The figure hesitated for a moment and said with some fear, "Master, Muyu killed Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Iguan." "Oof." Bai Jie's body suddenly emitted an incomparably majestic aura. The white brilliance spread out in all directions with him as the center. The entire temple seemed to start shaking because of his anger. The person who came in to report the news was slightly trembling. He was so frightened by Bai Jie's aura that he did not dare to breathe loudly. "Where?" Bai Jie's majestic voice was mixed with anger. "Chun and city." At that time, Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Higuan used a girl from Red Dust sect called Tian Ran to lure Muyu. According to the survivors of Chun and City, Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Higuan had already killed several tens of thousands of people to create a powerful barrier to trap Muyu. However, they did not expect that girl from Red Dust sect called Tian Ran to use Red Dust sect's forbidden technique to burn her life to break the barrier. This allowed Muyu to use his domain to kill Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Iguan. The person who reported the news also had cold sweat on his forehead. This was because they knew that their master did not like to hear this kind of news. However, they had to report it. Every time they came in, they would be on tenterhooks. Sure enough, Bai Jie's anger swept out like a storm. The kneeling person directly laid on the ground. It was as if they were being pressed down by a mountain. Did Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Higuan not kill everyone in Chun City? Bai Jie asked. They did not kill everyone. This caused more than 10,000 survivors to appear in Chun City. After we received the news, we went to intercept and kill these people. However, Jiang Shangqiu and Xiang Higuan have already exposed their true identities, right? Bai Jie thought of many things in an instant. "Master, it's like this. Right now, we have no way to completely find these 10,000 people. However, the news of us killing people for soul power has already spread. Right now, the cultivation world seems to have begun to question." Bai Jie's face was mixed with endless anger. "Go and deal with this matter. No matter what method you use, you must cover up this news. Do you understand?" "Yes." The person who reported the news felt as if he had been pardoned and quickly left the temple. "Palace envoy, is there any news of the ninth person with eternal life?" Bai Jie asked. There was a figure beside him who was waiting for orders. "Master, we have eliminated the people related to Muyu step by step. We have already confirmed this person's identity." The figure who was called Palace Envoy replied respectfully. "Then why don't you capture him and bring him here?" Bai Jie said coldly. The palace emissary quickly said, "My lord, we can't do anything to him. He is protected by a thunder technique realm of defying thunder immortal and a powerful formation. According to this formation, it should have been set up by Jian Ying and Chen Feng. We can't break his formation." Bai Jie snorted coldly. "Trash." The palace envoy knelt on the ground, trembling, and did not dare to speak. He seemed to be extremely angry because he thought of something. Then he shouted angrily, "No matter what method you use, go and capture the ninth person with eternal life for me. The power of Tianheng cannot be controlled by them." Yes, master. The palace envoy immediately bowed and left. The power of Tianheng, the battle of Shin immortals. I didn't expect it to cause trouble at this time. Jianing Qinfeng, you really have a good method. You have confined me here, but it doesn't matter. I have already found the 9th person with eternal life. You probably didn't expect this, right? Chapter 9, 57. The first ray of sunlight shone on the forest, looking very pleasant. The birds in the forest were singing happily, happy and carefree. Muyu sat on a branch next to the Bodhi tree, staring at it in a daze. The trunk of the Bodhi tree had become crystal clear, like a huge emerald crystal. At this time, Tian Ran was lying in the trunk of the Bodhi tree, looking like she was sleeping. The leaves of the entire Bodhi tree were gently moving, exuding exuberant vitality, wandering around Tian Ran. He had been guarding the Bodhi tree for 10 days. 10 days ago, he rushed from Chunan City to the Moyun mountain range without stopping, forcibly breaking into Shui Yuming's territory, and was surrounded by a group of Shui Yuming. If the old tree chief had not sensed Mu Yu's aura and rushed over in time, many Shui Yuming would have been injured in the hands of the anxious Mu Yu. The old tree chief was also very troubled by Mu Yu's request because the Bodhi tree was a sacred tree to him, possessing an incomparably strong vitality. Fortunately, Gomong came forward and solved the problem, activating the Bodhi tree and sending Tian Ran into the Bodhi tree. Don't worry, I can feel Sister Tian Ran's vitality slowly recovering. Little Shuai stretched lazily on the treetop. Okay, Muyu had been worried about Tian Ran for the past few days, but this Bodhi tree was indeed powerful. It could actually convert its own vitality essence into human vitality and integrate it into Tian Ran's body, helping Tian Ran to recover her vitality that had been burned out. However, this process was very slow. Tian Ran's body and soul were not injured. According to the old tree chief, Tian Ran's time of awakening was uncertain. It could be a few days, a month, or a few years. It all depended on Tian Ran's luck. During this period of time, Gomong rarely spoke because he had just broken free from the 9 heavens sealing demon formation and needed time to slowly recover. Muyu also did not disturb him. Strictly speaking, they were one, but they had 2 independent consciousnesses. However, they could also merge the 2 consciousnesses together and become the same person. It was just that Muyu didn't want to merge, so they each dealt with their own thoughts and didn't interfere with each other. But at this moment, Gomong's voice rang out in Muyu's mind. Do you know why I'm helping you? Muyu was silent for a moment and said, I don't know, but I still have to thank you. I'm just repaying Evergreen Deadwood's favor. If it weren't for Evergreen Deadwood's blood protecting the sky, I would have been devoured by the death energy, Gomong said calmly. I thought you were a bewitching Yumeng. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Muyu said sincerely. Gomong snorted softly. Back then, I was indeed unwilling to live in the body of a little brat like you. However, I've changed my mind now. Some of your special qualities are the same as your master's, and I admire them. Muyu didn't say anything. He didn't want to know what special qualities he had. Right now, he just wanted to wait for Tian Ran to wake up. Do you know what this tree means to us? Gomong asked. I don't know. This tree is called the Tree of Life by us. The Tree of Life is extremely strange. It is a divine tree that has survived since ancient times and possesses an extremely powerful life force. It is because of its existence that our Mu Yumeng has been able to survive until now. Every Mu Yumeng spirit lord was born from this tree, Gomong said. Muyu was surprised. Every Mu Yumeng spirit lord? I thought you were the only Mu Yumeng spirit lord. Of course not. Although we have immortal bodies, we can still be killed. When one dies, the Tree of Life will give birth to another one. Do you think Jianing and Chunfeng trapped us in the Moyun mountain range to protect the human race? Gomong said indifferently. Isn't that the case? Muyu asked in return. To tell you the truth, our Mu Yumeng did the same thing as the Yao race back then. It wasn't because we were fighting the human race or threatening your race. That was all a figment of your imagination, Gomong said. Muyu frowned slightly. The same thing as the Yao race. You were also targeted by the so-called Heaven's Enforcers? Muyu still only had a vague idea of the existence of the Heaven's Enforcers. He had no idea what the Heaven's Enforcers meant. That's right. Jianing and Chunfeng's previous explanations were all one-sided. They said that the human race couldn't defeat Yaman, so he attacked and defeated us, trapping Yaman in the Moyun mountain range. That was just an excuse. He just didn't want to attract the attention of the Heaven's Enforcers. He actually sent us into the cycle of reincarnation to protect us, Gomong said reluctantly. Muyu nodded thoughtfully. Then why couldn't the 5 of you be sealed up like the 10 Yao Kings? Because our auras are different from the Yao Kings. We have only one element. Even if we were sealed, the Heaven's Enforcers could easily find us. That's why we could only use the bodies of humans to hide our auras. The reason why Jian Ying and Chun Feng set up the 9 Heavens sealing formation to seal us up again was because they were worried that the Heaven's Enforcers would sense our auras after we control the 5 of you. I think he should have realized long ago that he no longer had the ability to deal with the Heaven's Enforcers. After all, the Heaven and Earth formation exhausted his cultivation. Gomong's tone was very strange. It sounded like he was joking, but he also sounded very unwilling. Gomong and the other 4 Yao Ming were immortal existences. Back then, there weren't enough immortals in this world, so Jianing and Chun Feng used another method to let them live. Then what did you Yao Ming do to be targeted by the Heaven's Enforcers? Is it also to control your own fate? Muyu still didn't understand. Back when he asked the Si Yao King about this matter, the Si Yao King had given him this explanation, but he wasn't willing to elaborate. Muyu also didn't know much about it. He always felt that the Heaven's Enforcers were too inconceivable. Gomong said, when you reach the Grand Ascension stage in the future and have a preliminary understanding of the heavenly way, you'll understand. Right now, it's useless for me to explain too much to you. Then why are you suddenly bringing this up to me? Muyu asked. Because I haven't talked to anyone in a long time, and I want to relieve my boredom. Also, I've been observing you for the past few years, and I've realized that I can't understand you. I'm very familiar with things like life, but you don't value your life as much as others. Is Deadwood Evergreen really worth it for you? Gomong asked coldly. He's worth it for me to do anything for him. You shouldn't have human emotions, so you won't understand, Muyu said. You're wrong. Any race with consciousness has emotions. We have them too. It's just that I don't think anyone can do what you do. Of course, it's not just you. Whether it's Jianing, Chun Feng, Deadwood Evergreen, or that girl, people like you who don't value your lives are rare in any race, Gomong said. Jianing and Chun Feng sacrificed their cultivation to save everyone in the 3rd heaven. Deadwood Evergreen sacrificed his life for Muyu. Muyu wanted to return his life to Deadwood Evergreen. Tian Ran burned her life to protect Muyu. Life seemed to be cheap in their eyes, and they could be squandered as they wished. However, Muyu shook his head. It's not that we don't value our lives, but we value our lives too much. That's why we want to use our lives where we think they're right. Because they valued their lives, they treated their lives seriously. They couldn't bear to let the people they cared about leave. I understand. Gomong seemed to be thinking about something. Then he said, I still want to remind you that after you return your life to Deadwood Evergreen, I'll leave your body. Your body will become incomplete with the 5 elements. By then, even the Bodhi tree won't be able to save you. Don't take any chances. I'm not taking any chances, Muyu said simply. Gomong didn't say anything after that. Muyu lay on the treetop and looked at the sky. He didn't know what happened to the people in Chun'an City in the past 10 days, but he hoped that little Chinzi's family would be safe. Because he was anxious to save them, he forgot about little Chinzi's family. However, he thought that the 3 of them should be able to walk out of there alone. He just hoped that they wouldn't return to Chun'an City. Muyu, we've all returned to Moyun Mountain Range. Shouldn't you go and find the old faker and the village chief? Xiao Shui picked a bunch of bananas from somewhere and ate happily. Muyu glanced at Tian Ran, who was still recovering in the Bodhi tree. He didn't know when Tian Ran would wake up, but knowing that Tian Ran would be safe, Muyu felt at ease. Now that he had seen Tian Ran, He had passed the second test in his heart. Now that he was in Mayun mountain range, it was indeed time to find the village chief. When he left Flowing Water Village, Muyu vowed to Grandpa Village Chief that he would be a person who fought against Yaman. However, what he was doing now was inconsistent with what he had promised. He wanted to tell the truth to Grandpa Village Chief. Only then would he not feel worried. Grandpa Village Chief was one of the most important people in his life. He didn't want to hide it from Grandpa Village Chief. Yes. Muyu nodded. Old Tree Head walked slowly to the tree from a distance and said with a smile, "Don't worry and go do your own thing. This girl will be fine." Muyu jumped down from the tree and landed in front of Old Tree Head. He said gratefully, "Thank you, Old Tree Head." Old Tree Head waved his hand. "No need. Sir Gomong asked me to help you, so I must help you. I believe in you, just like Sir Gomong. By the way, there's one more thing. Priest Shui Yumeng said that some Shui Yumeng in the outside world have chosen to rely on the people of Sanchong Palace, so you must be careful." Muyu nodded. "Then I'll leave. I'll be back soon." They were now in Moyun Mountain Range. Although Flowing Water Village was some distance away from here, it wasn't too far. With Muyu's speed, he would be able to reach it soon. Muyu took a last look at Tian Ran and said, "Girl, wait here for me to come back." Xiao Shuai jumped onto Muyu's shoulder. Under the guidance of Old Tree Head, the two left this place and headed towards Flowing Water Village. Chapter 958. Early in the morning, the quiet Flowing Water Village was already bustling with activity. The adults were preparing to go to the fields with their plows and hoes. Some hunters were preparing to go hunting. The children had finished their meals and ran happily to the grain-drying field at the entrance of the village. The white-haired but hale and hearty village chief, Old Bu, had been waiting for the children at the grain-drying field with a smile. He was old and could not do any work. Every day, he helped the villagers take care of the children, teach them how to read, and tell them stories. Most of the stories in the book were about Muyu, the most amazing person in his heart. Today, Muyu had appeared in all kinds of stories. For example, Muyu beat the white chicken 3 times, caused havoc in the Sea Dragon Palace, angrily moved the mountain that blocked the road, and filled the flood river. These were all to set off Muyu's bravery, righteousness, and righteousness. Little Muyu gave pears to pears. Muyu danced when he heard the rooster. Muyu hung the beam and stabbed the buttocks, chiseled the wall to steal light, and so on. These stories portrayed Muyu as a good child who was diligent and eager to learn from a young age. Although these stories had nothing to do with Muyu. For example, when Muyu was a child, the rooster's crowing disturbed his sleep every morning. He thought about whether to kill the rooster and eat it. Later, he thought that if he did that, the village chief would be heartbroken. So, every day before he went to bed, he wrapped the rooster's mouth tightly with roots. Anyway, village chief Old Bu did not care about these things. Muyu was the pride of his heart. He was the most promising immortal master from Flowing Water Village. Every day, he created new stories for Muyu. He even specially wrote a biography called The Legend of Muyu, saying that it was for the future generations to read. His life in his later years was rich and colorful. Now, he would tell the story of the good child Muyu once every day. There were various versions, and the most classic version was naturally. In the blink of an eye, our Muyu arrived just in time and fought with that immortal master for 300 rounds. It was like the sky turned dark, and the sun and moon lost their light. Muyu's 2 flying swords were like world-shaking heavenly thunders that specialized in judging good and evil in the world. Once the heavenly swords were unleashed, sand and pebbles flew, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled, making it hard for people to open their eyes. The sword pierced forward. Instantly, the wind and clouds surged, and the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. The immortal master from the Big Dot village was beaten up badly by Muyu. He was sent flying while vomiting blood. His blood dyed the dust red, and even the sky was dyed red. This was the first story that village chief Old Bu told every day. Because Muyu had already been deified by village chief Old Bu, the children would never get tired of hearing this story. Muyu had also become the object of everyone's worship. However, occasionally, there would be a few smart children who would question the authenticity of village chief Old Boo's story. This was especially true for the second volume of Muyu's Legend of the Hero, where the immortal master kneeled before the village chief. There would always be children who sniffled and questioned this. An immortal master was a high and mighty existence with boundless magical power. How could they kneel before a mortal like village chief Old Boo? However, today, these children were all stunned. The scene before them made them no longer question the village chief. Elder, please help us. Several hundred immortal masters with imposing appearances kneeled in front of village chief Old Boo. The scene was grand, and it frightened everyone quite a bit. Village chief Old Boo's palm leaf fan fell to the ground. His mouth was wide open, and even his beard was sticking up. He didn't dare to believe what was happening in front of him. What are you all doing? Village chief Old Boo looked at the several hundred people who suddenly knelt in front of him in disbelief. One had to know that these people who knelt in front of him were the ones who had just descended from the sky like riding on clouds. They were the legendary Immortal Masters. Immortal Masters were the targets of village chief Old Boo's admiration. Last time, in order to seek justice for village chief Old Boo, Muyu taught a lesson to an immortal master who had humiliated village chief Old Boo. Muyu even made that immortal master kneel down in front of village chief Old Boo. This incident was enough for village chief Old Boo to brag about for more than 10 years. He never thought that this time, hundreds of immortal masters would appear in front of him out of nowhere and kneel down in front of him. Village chief Old Boo's brain couldn't wrap itself around this. Why did things suddenly become so strange? What was wrong with his brain? Did these immortal masters cultivate until they became stupid? However, village chief Old Boo was already laughing foolishly in his heart because he suddenly thought that with so many immortal masters kneeling before him, how would he continue writing the next chapter of The Legend of Muyu? Elder, Muyu's matter must be solved by you. Please agree to come with us. The middle-aged immortal master looked at village chief Old Boo earnestly, as if he was worried about something. Village chief Old Boo was actually very excited, but he was also a bit scared. Although he didn't understand what was going on, he seemed to have benefited from Muyu again. He bent down to pick up the palm leaf fan on the ground and carefully said, Okay. You all can rise. Village chief Old Boo felt like he was an emperor, letting his people rise. However, he didn't have any cultivation. He knew that if any of these immortal masters casually snapped their fingers, he would be finished. Elder, please agree to come with us. The middle-aged immortal master said. Can I ask, what happened to Muyu? Village chief Old Boo asked respectfully. The middle-aged immortal master said with a serious face, Elder, Muyu is bewitched by Yumon and has lost his mind. Right now, he is leading Yumon to fight against us humans. We have no way of defeating him. We can only rely on you to wake and save Muyu. What? Muyu? Muyu is bewitched by Yumon? Village chief Old Boo was shocked. He remembered a secret that had been buried deep in his heart for more than 10 years. That year, Muyu was 12 years old. Village chief Old Boo was about to take him to the town school to register, but he did not expect to encounter a big grizzly bear. At that time, in order to save him, the young Muyu revealed an ability that made village chief Old Boo tremble in fear. Tree control. Tree control was Muyu's ability. Village chief Old Boo chose to believe in Muyu because he understood Muyu's temperament. He believed that Muyu would definitely be a good immortal master and use Muyu's ability to deal with these Yamon. However, he never expected this immortal master in front of him to say such words. You said that Muyu was bewitched by Yamon. Is this true? Village chief Old Boo was burning with anxiety. In his heart, Muyu was a good child. How could he be bewitched by Yamon? If he was bewitched by Yumon, how could he be a role model for other children? A strange light flashed through the middle-aged man's eyes. His face was filled with pain. Yes, we heard that you were the one who raised Muyu since he was young. Muyu listens to you the most. Therefore, only you can awaken Muyu now. Village chief Old Boo's heart was filled with anxiety. Muyu was the person he cared about the most. What he was most afraid of was that Muyu had met with an accident outside. Then where is Muyu now? What should I do? Village Chief Old Bu asked anxiously. The middle-aged immortal master immediately took out a white jade pendant from his pocket. This jade pendant was flowing with a sacred brilliance. At a glance, it looked like a treasure from the gods. Even Village Chief Old Bu couldn't help but feel deep respect for it. The middle-aged man explained, "This jade pendant was specially set up by us to protect you. It can prevent you from being bewitched by Yumon. We are worried that Muyu will also use Yumon's ability to control you. Therefore, you must take it." Village Chief Old Bu quickly nodded. The jade pendant was glowing with a sacred white light. At a glance, he could tell that it wasn't a divine item from an immortal master. He didn't think much of it and reached out to take the jade pendant. However, the middle-aged man pulled his hand back. "Elder, you must remember. When you hold this jade pendant, your body will experience some abnormal changes. You may feel uncomfortable and repulsive, but this is all for your own good. You must empty yourself and not resist the repulsive force from the jade pendant. If you resist, the jade pendant will no longer be able to be used. Do you understand?" The middle-aged man warned. "I understand." Village Chief Old Bu nodded seriously. When it came to Muyu's safety, Village Chief Old Bu would do anything. The middle-aged man's request was nothing. The middle-aged man carefully handed the jade pendant to Village Chief Old Bu. After Village Chief Old Bu received the jade pendant, he immediately felt a strange adhesive force coming from the jade pendant. It seemed to have turned into a stream of light and wrapped around his body. However, at this moment, the village ground suddenly filled with a powerful aura of formation runes. It forcefully pulled the stream of light that covered Village Chief Old Bu's body from the jade pendant. It was like a tug of war. The aura from the jade pendant seemed to be very weak and would soon be devoured by the formation runes. "Elder, remember, you must believe in the power of the jade pendant. Resist other things. You have a way to resist the power that wants to destroy the jade pendant." The middle-aged man immediately said. Village Chief Old Bu's expression was very serious. He put all his focus on his body. He believed the middle-aged man's words and also felt the strange and powerful formation runes from the ground. He tried his best to accept the aura from the jade pendant. Slowly, because of Village Chief Old Bu's resistance, the formation runes from the village ground were finally expelled from his body. The holy white light from the jade pendant also smoothly entered Village Chief Old Bu's body. Village Chief Old Bu felt like he had lost contact with the village. He even felt like he was isolated from the outside world. The village kept releasing an aura that wanted to reconnect with him, but in the end, it was all expelled by Village Chief Old Bu. "Okay, I did it." Village Chief Old Bu let out a breath of relief. The middle-aged man revealed an imperceptible smile, but quickly disappeared. He sincerely said, "There is no time. Elder, please excuse me." The middle-aged man had already appeared behind Village Chief Old Bu. Then his aura covered Village Chief Old Bu's body and wrapped him up. In the blink of an eye, Village Chief Old Bu disappeared from Flowing Water Village. At the same time, the hundreds of people who knelt down also disappeared in an instant. Only a group of children who hadn't recovered from the shock were left there. They were amazed by the power of Grandpa Village Chief. Immortal Master really knelt down to Grandpa Village Chief. Chapter 9:59. Muyu and Lil Shuai had already landed outside Flowing Water Village, but Muyu stopped in his tracks. "What's wrong?" "Muyu, are you still thinking about how to explain to Grandpa fraud?" Lil Shuai asked casually. Muyu nodded. "Back then, I promised Grandpa Village Head that I would be a good immortal master to fight against Yumon. Unfortunately, I have already broken my promise." He did not fight against Yumon. Instead, he slaughtered countless immortal masters. The promise he made when he was a child made him feel uneasy because Grandpa Village Head was someone he relied on when he was young. When he was young, he did not have parents and was bullied by other children. It was always Grandpa Village Head who protected him, so he always listened to Grandpa Village Head. Now, he had already embarked on a path that went against Grandpa Village Head's wishes. He felt very uncomfortable and could not truly face Grandpa Village Head. But you still have to face yourself. Let's go. I quite like Grandpa Fraud, little Shuai said. Muyu hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he quietly entered Flowing Water Village without alerting anyone. He appeared in the village head's house, but he did not see Grandpa Village Head. Grandpa Fraud must be telling the children the story of my battle on floating immortal island at the grain sunning field. Let's go listen, little Shuai said happily. Muyu turned around and appeared at the grain sunning field. However, he frowned slightly because Grandpa Village Head was not there either. There was only a group of children whispering and discussing. What's going on? Muyu vaguely felt uneasy. He pressed his hands on the ground, and an 8 trigrams formation appeared under his palms. Instantly, countless formation patterns appeared on the ground of the village. Then, his expression changed slightly. What's going on? Where's Grandpa Fraud? Little Shuai asked curiously. He's not in the village, Muyu said in a deep voice. Muyu's ears suddenly twitched because he had already heard the group of children's discussion. Grandpa Village Head is so impressive. Yeah, so many great immortal masters kneeled to him. Grandpa Village Head is like the leader of an immortal master. He's so powerful. This is all thanks to Big Brother Muyu. The truth is, I want to see that Muyu Gidge with my own eyes. Grandpa Village Head said that Big Brother Muyu is fighting with Yaman outside. Unfortunately, we are too young to become immortal masters. The group of children were discussing the village chief's divine might. At this time, Xiao Shuai had already run over. He looked to be only 3 or 4 years old, about the same age as the other children. Hey, what do you mean by Master Immortal kneeling before the village head? Where's the village chief? Little Shuai asked curiously. Who are you? Why haven't we seen you before? A child from Flowing Water Village asked. Xiao Shuai said in all seriousness. I'm an admirer of the village chief. I'm here to ask for an autograph. Where's the village chief? The village head was taken away by a group of immortal masters. Taken away? Where to? Xiao Shuai immediately asked. I don't know. We only heard those immortal masters say that Big Brother Muyu in Yaman wanted Grandpa Village Head to do something big. Then those immortal masters took him away. A little boy said. Muyu's expression changed greatly. Where do they take Grandpa Village Head? Muyu flashed in front of the group of children and asked anxiously. Big brother, who are you? The other children asked curiously. Who I am is not important. Hurry up and tell me who took Grandpa Village Head away. Tell me everything in detail. Muyu was not in the mood to explain his identity. The children were very excited about the hundreds of immortal masters kneeling before Grandpa Village Head. They couldn't wait to tell Muyu everything that happened. Muyu's face became paler and paler as he listened. He quickly asked, Then where did they go? Towards the sky, of course. That's right. Immortal masters all ride on the clouds. Xiao Shuai, let's go. Muyu realized that there was no way to get more information. He immediately stepped out and appeared above the village. Ah, Big Brother is also an immortal master? Really? The child opened his eyes wide and shouted excitedly. Muyu's heart became very heavy. He quickly circled above the village head. There are many traces of chaotic self-cultivators. Muyu paced around Flowing Water Village for a while. Faint ripples of formation appeared above the village and covered the entire village. Didn't you come here last time? Didn't you tell him not to leave the village? Xiao Shuai asked curiously. Last time, when I secretly came back to cast the formation on Grandpa Village Head, I didn't dare to face him. So I didn't appear in front of him. I only set up a protective formation for the village head. Muyu said, Then you didn't think that he would be in danger once he left Flowing Water Village? Xiao Shuai asked. Grandpa Village Head usually wouldn't leave Flowing Water Village. The furthest he would go is to the school in Qingshou City. The protective range of this formation covers the furthest place from Grandpa Village Head. As long as he doesn't leave this area, his life won't be in danger. No one can even forcefully take him away. Master has already set up a protective formation for him. It's enough to ensure that the people from Third Palace can't enter this area. Muyu clenched his fist. The people from Third Palace can't enter, but the people from 8 Gates can. Can't forcefully take him away? Not even by Jia? Xiao Shui asked. Yes, not even by Jia. Because Grandpa Village Head's body not only has the lightning protection, I also discovered Master's formation. Master already knew about this. I'm afraid that after the immortal confining prison lost its effect, Master has already cast a protective formation on him. Master's formation won't restrict any self-cultivators from entering Flowing Water Village. But if anyone wants to forcefully take him away, they will be blocked by the protective formation. Bai Jia is no exception, Muyu explained. This formation was set up with the help of the power of nature. Because the formation wasn't regularly maintained by anyone, it couldn't be used to attack. But without attacking, it had a strong protective ability. As long as village head Old Bu stayed within the protective range of the formation, no one could take him away. In the past, many self-cultivators would go to various villages to recruit disciples. So the formation couldn't purposely restrict self-cultivators from entering. Otherwise, a village where self-cultivators couldn't enter would easily arouse suspicion. Then why is he being taken away now? Xiao Shui asked. Someone must have used some method. The protective formation has a flaw. The person being protected can resist the formation pattern. If I'm not wrong, these people must have used flowery words to deceive him. Then they used some method to cut off the connection between the formation pattern and Grandpa Village Head. We must stop them immediately. Muyu was very anxious. He definitely couldn't let anything happen to Grandpa Village Head. Not only was Village Head the person who raised him, he was also the 9th person who gained eternal life. Hundreds of immortal masters took Village Head Old Bu and left Flowing Water Village. They quickly headed in a direction. At this moment, they were more than 10,000 li away from Flowing Water Village. Village Head Old Bu had never left Flowing Water Village to such a far place. He had long exceeded the protective range of the formation. Village Head Old Bu only felt that his vision was pitch black. He was very scared and anxious. He didn't know where he was being taken to. Suddenly, his surroundings trembled. Then, he could see light again. He found himself on a plain. He thought he had reached his destination. However, his surroundings were restless. The middle-aged, immortal master anxiously protected him behind his back. This old man must die. A few strange voices came from the front. It seemed that someone was blocking the path of these hundreds of immortal masters. Village Head Old Bu stuck his head out from the middle-aged, immortal master's shoulder. Do you want to know who was so daring to go against these hundreds of immortal masters? When he saw who it was, he was so scared that he almost peed his pants. It's Yaman. Why is Yaman here? Village Head Old Bu was so scared that he didn't know what to do. In the legends, Yaman burned, killed, and robbed. He didn't expect that he would actually appear here. Go. You must protect the elder. The middle-aged, immortal master waved his hand. The hundreds of immortal masters behind him angrily charged towards Yaman and fought fiercely with Yaman. Village Head Old Bu tightly grabbed the middle-aged immortal master's clothes. The only thing that could make him feel at ease now was this seemingly kind immortal master. He believed that this great immortal master would definitely be able to protect him. Above the clouds of the battlefield, 3 imposing figures stood in the void. One of them was the palace envoy. He was extremely powerful. He stood there as if he was one with heaven and earth. He was like a god, causing people to revere him. The 2 people beside him were both on the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard. Guku ranked 10th on the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard. Shi Hongyi ranked 8th on the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard. Lord Palace Envoy, that old man is the 9th person with eternal life. Guku said respectfully from the side. The Palace Envoy nodded slightly. I didn't expect this. I really didn't expect this. Jianing and Chunfeng had already set up this trap and hid this person so deeply. And it's so well protected. I'm afraid this protective formation is not much worse than the blood shield shrouding the sky. Shihongi asked respectfully, Lord Palace Envoy, there is a powerful protective thunder spell in his body. It is the domain ability of Immortal Annihilate. Do you want to deal with this thunder spell personally? The Palace Envoy shook his head. This thunder spell is too powerful. Jianing and Immortal Annihilate have been guarding against us. No one can get rid of this thunder spell except for my lord. Then should we let him take this thunder spell to the third palace? That thunder secret art is very terrible. If it explodes, our place will be razed to the ground. With the help of Sword Shadow and Dust Wind, Reverend and I Lay's thunder secret art is very powerful. Once Reverend and I Lay finds out that the ninth person of eternal life is in our hands, he will definitely launch the thunder secret art directly. Guka hesitated. The palace envoy smiled confidently and said, Don't worry. Everything is under control. The pit buried in the prologue was only filled with soil after nearly 1,000 chapters. These 2 days I was in a bad mood. The more I wrote, the more irritable I became. This book was ordered by the main website. The reading was too bad. The editor suggested that I end it. If I end it now, it means that it's a bad ending or it's a problem with the subscription. I have a lot of unfinished plots. I don't want to end it in a hurry. But I can't get royalties from other channels. I don't get royalties from the main website. So, whether it's a certain artifact, a certain banner, or a certain bear reading terminal, I can't get the money you spend. I'm very sad that there's no return. This book is probably, alas, it's not that I can't finish it. The outline of the plot is in my mind, but the editor doesn't think it's necessary to continue writing. He suggested that I end it and start a new book. So I'm very disappointed, really disappointed. I want to finish this story, but I don't have enough motivation to continue. Maybe I'm really not good at writing. I should reflect on it. I'm not very clear about how to end it next, because there are too many things to explain. Do you think I should continue writing? The biggest reason is piracy. First of all, I'm very grateful to those who are willing to pay to read it, because your payment is a kind of motivation for me to write. Thank you very much. Genuine reading is too important for the author. I like this story very much, but reality poured cold water on me and slapped me in the face. I'm a little confused. Chapter 960. Village head Olbu stared blankly at all of this. He had been protected by the middle-aged immortal master the entire time, but the latter seemed unable to bring him out of the Yumon's encirclement. He could only watch as the immortal master who could destroy heaven and earth with a wave of his hand clashed with the five elemental Yumon. Flames filled the sky, trees grew, earth spikes filled the field, sword rays flashed, and icicles were cold. The immortal masters with imposing appearances couldn't even withstand a single blow from the self-cultivators. They were all slaughtered by the Yumon, leaving only Tian Kaifeng to protect the village head. How did this happen? Village head Olbu panicked and hid behind the middle-aged immortal master. Is all of this related to Muyu? Village head Olbu gulped and asked. The middle-aged immortal master nodded. Only you can solve Muyu's problem. Elder, you must live. The middle-aged immortal master's spirit energy suddenly exploded. He spat out a mouthful of blood and rushed into the clouds with village head Olbu. Muyu. Village head Olbu murmured. Village chief Olbu mumbled. What exactly happened to that kind-hearted child? His thoughts drifted back to many years ago. He remembered that Muyu was only 12 years old. Everything started then. However, before he could think of anything, he was interrupted again. The middle-aged immortal master had not gone far with village chief Olbu, because at this moment, countless yumming devils had surrounded them again. The two of them could not escape, even if they had wings. Immortal Master, what should we do now? Village head Olbu was completely terrified. The middle-aged immortal master was covered in wounds and blood. He said anxiously, Elder, if we want to escape, we can only destroy these Yumon. But I can't defeat these Yumon with my strength. We can only rely on you now. Rely on me? You want me to hand you over to the Yumon? Village head Olbu was shocked. Elder, you've misunderstood. I will protect you even if I have to risk my life. However, you have an extremely powerful lightning art on you. It was left behind by an expert to protect you. As long as you activate this lightning art, you can instantly kill these yumming devils. The middle-aged immortal master said anxiously. I have something on me? Village head Olbu asked in shock. He never knew that he had a powerful spell that could instantly kill these Yaman. The middle-aged immortal master nodded. Feel it carefully. It's near your heart. When your life is in danger, the lightning spell will automatically activate to protect you. But right now, you can activate it yourself. As long as you activate it, we can escape. Mu Yu is our hope. He's the hope of the human race. Nothing can happen. Village chief Olbu thought of Mu Yu. Compared to the current situation, he was more worried about Mu Yu's predicament. The middle-aged immortal master in front of him had a dignified appearance. Village chief Olbu did not doubt his words at all. Okay, for Mu Yu. Immortal master, what should I do? Village head Olbu quickly asked. Elder, you just need to feel your chest. You'll feel the existence of this lightning spell. Not only can it sense danger, but it can also be controlled by you. The middle-aged immortal master said anxiously. At this moment, the surrounding yumming devils once again bared their fangs and brandished their claws while laughing wildly in the air. Countless flames, rocks, and icicles rained down from the sky. However, the middle-aged immortal master summoned a magic treasure that turned into a white barrier, blocking all the flying sand, stones, and sword shadows outside. However, every time they blocked an attack from the Yumeng demons, the entire barrier would tremble violently. It seemed like it would break the next time, and the fiery earth and rocks would engulf them. Village head Olbu became more and more nervous. The middle-aged immortal master's face was pale, without a trace of blood. It looked like he wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. He quickly placed his hand on his chest. After living in Flowing Water Village for so many years, he had never heard of any powerful immortal arts hidden in his body. He was skeptical. However, when he touched his chest and carefully sensed it, there was a numbing feeling coming from the periphery of his heart. This feeling was very strange. When he sensed it, a very clear concept appeared in his mind. It was as if someone had suddenly told him how to use this immortal art. He already knew how to guide this lightning spell. He even knew how to use it to destroy the enemy. This sudden immortal art made village head Olbu feel very inconceivable. Blue lightning gathered on village chief Olbu's hand. Every meridian under his skin was illuminated with a blue light. Countless streams of light kept surging up village chief Olbu's arm. He felt as if there was a hidden volcano in his body that was about to erupt. It was filled with explosive power. This power was incomparably terrifying. As soon as the blue lightning appeared, a powerful domain power rolled out, enveloping the area within a radius of a few hundred miles. Village head Olbu's body was glowing with blue light. He looked extremely fierce and overbearing in the air. He was like a thunder god who had descended to earth. He stood there and waved his hand. It seemed like the wind and clouds would change dramatically and destroy the world. My God, I can actually use this immortal art. Village head Olbu was amazed. This lightning spell was naturally the domain ability Broken Thunder Dust that Reverend and I Lay had sealed in village head Olbu's body. Unlike Mu Yu, when village head Olbu used the Broken Thunder Dust, he didn't consume any spiritual power at all. It was as if Reverend and I Lay had paid a huge price to help him solve all his worries. The middle-aged immortal master's face also showed a look of horror. Under the cover of this domain, even he had no possibility of escaping. The domain ability of a lightning spell shocked the middle-aged immortal master. He couldn't help but feel a sense of powerlessness in his heart. Village chief Olbu's entire body had already flown up, and lightning flashed all over his body. His eyes were covered with blue lightning runes, and at this moment, the white barrier that was originally protecting them was directly torn apart by the lightning. The sky was filled with flames, sand, and stones, and saber lights and sword shadows instantly enveloped them. However, The lightning on village head Old Boo's body splashed in all directions. All the 5 elements spells that rushed over were directly turned into ashes by the lightning in the void. Not even a residue was left. You bunch of Yaman. You dare to confuse my family's little Muyu. I'll kill you. Village head Old Boo didn't know where the courage came from. He suddenly raised his hand. Instantly, the lightning in his palm rippled out like a ripple. The violent lightning patterns hissed as if they were going to wipe out all the evil aura in the world. These lightning rays blasted out from village head Old Boo's body and entered the void. Even the dust became the lightning's body. The dense lightning rays crisscrossed in the sky like a spider web. They extended out endlessly and connected to all the Yumon's body. All the Yuman that were still showing off there might suddenly widen their eyes in horror. The fire Yuman that was covered in flames, the earth Yuman that was made of crystals, the water Yuman that was watered by blue water, the Mu Yuman that was covered in branches, and the Jin Yuman that was emitting a cold light. All the Yuman's bodies were densely covered in lightning. These lightning rays surged out from village head Old Boo's body and disappeared into the void. They then spread out from the air around each Yuman and entered their bodies. Following that, a spider web of lightning patterns appeared on each Yuman's body. Everyone's movements also strangely stopped in midair. Hiss, hiss, hiss. A slight cracking sound came from each Yuman's body. The vitality of each Yuman seemed to be squeezed out in an instant. They turned into fragile porcelain pieces and finally exploded violently. All the Yumming devils were instantly blasted into pieces by the lightning. However, before the pieces of their bodies could travel far, they were annihilated by the other lightning bolts in the sky. For a moment, the entire sky seemed to be covered by blue lightning. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled everywhere. Violent lightning bolts poured out in torrents, spreading out with village chief Old Boo as the center. In an instant, everything within a radius of 100 miles was turned into nothingness. Immortal Ni Lay's formation domain, Thunder Dust. What a powerful domain ability. Goku, who was in the Void formation, sighed with lingering fear. This kind of domain ability was far beyond his. Even if he wanted to survive this terrible lightning, it was impossible. The palace envoy snorted coldly. Immortal Ni Lay really put in a lot of effort for this old man. He didn't hesitate to use his life essence to set up this thunder spell. Not to mention that he also has the formation of Sword Shadow and Dust Wind. Although the range of effect is only 100 miles, even I don't dare to take on this thunder spell easily. Those Yuman and the human clan died a worthy death, Shihongi said. They were originally insignificant guys. It's better if they die. They can become our sole power. The palace envoy sneered. The battle between the cultivators and the Yuman just now was not a show at all. It was a real life and death struggle. Only in this way could the thunder spell be drawn out of village chief Boo's body. Village chief Old Boo panted heavily as he looked around in shock. None of the Yumming devils had survived his thunder art. Not only that, the entire area seemed to have been dug away by something. Within a radius of 100 miles, the trees, rocks, forests, mountains, and rivers had all been destroyed and turned into a barren land. There was even a huge pit that was 100 miles deep in the ground. When village chief Old Boo saw that he had used a strange immortal technique to wipe out all the Yumming devils, he immediately let out a sigh of relief and quickly said, "Immortal Master, I have done as you said and wiped out all the Yumming devils." But when he looked back, the Immortal Master was nowhere to be seen. The middle-aged Immortal Master had already been killed by his terrifying thunder spell domain. Village chief Boo turned pale with fright. Immortal Master? Did I kill Master Immortal as well? Then what should I do now? Where should I go to find that child Muyu? At this moment, village chief Old Boo still had a remnant of the lightning art in his body, which lifted him up into the air. However, he was the only one left within a radius of 100 miles. He felt incomparably afraid and guilty because he still believed in that middle-aged immortal master. The void surged, and a figure stepped out. His whole body was suffused with a holy white light. He looked incomparably imposing and made people feel reverence. "Elder, are you okay? I am the immortal master in charge of taking you to see Muyu." Goku smiled. His smile was incomparably holy in village chief Bu's eyes. Chapter 961. There was no one in this area at all, so Goku dared to show up with his true face. No matter who it was, when they saw their majestic bodies, they would be in awe and treat them as gods. "Yu, oh my god." The village chief was also confused by the white light on Goku's body, but there was still a powerful thunder spell in his body. Worried that it would hurt the gods again, he quickly shouted, Don't come over. I can't control myself. I don't know where this immortal spell came from." Village Chief Oldbu was also having a headache. He had inexplicably obtained such a terrifying immortal technique. Although he could destroy heaven and earth with a raise of his hand, this was an ability that he had always dreamed of, and he had even killed all of the Yu-Meng demons. However, he didn't expect that he would accidentally kill the immortal master who had come to rescue him. This was not worth the loss. Goku pondered for a moment. He could see that immortal Ni Lei had really paid a lot to protect the old man. Now, there were still remnants of the thunder spell sealed in the village chief's body. These thunder spells were enough to use the thunder dust again. Although the power was not as terrible as before, it was not a joke. "It's okay. I can teach you how to guide the rest of the thunder spell so that you won't hurt people." Goku appeared at this time to solve the remaining thunder spell in the village chief's body. Because the people brought by Stargate and Yumon were all dead, there was no Yumon for the village chief to kill, so he showed up in person. Without guidance, the village chief didn't know how to control such a powerful force at all. He could only use it at will and kill everyone around him, but Goku could teach him how to guide the rest of the thunder spell to one place. When the village chief heard that Goku could guide the immortal spell out of his body, he quickly said, "Oh, okay. Hurry up and tell me how to do this. It's terrible. I just want to kill Yumon, but I don't want to kill the immortal master." For Goku, the death of Yumon and the people of Stargate would not cause any loss. After all, they started the war to kill people. There was nothing to regret. But the village chief was a simple and kind person, and naturally didn't want to see anything happen to the immortal master. He was the one who fought against Yumon. You just have to think about gathering all the thunder and lightning in your palm and striking in one direction. The thunder spell will be under your control. You will understand this. Goku pretended to be very patient. If it wasn't for the fact that village chief Oldbu's body was specially set up to see through illusions, Goku would only need to use some illusions to invade the Yu-Ming devil clan. Unfortunately, Jian Ying and Chen Feng had already considered this possibility, so they couldn't use illusions in front of village chief Oldbu. Is that so? Village chief Oldbu had already raised his hand. Once again, a powerful lightning spell gathered in his palm. Lightning crackled and flickered in the air. For his sake, immortal Ni Lei even engraved the method of using the formation in the mind of village chief Oldbu. After being reminded by Goku, village chief Oldbu also understood what he should do. That's right, that's it. Next, you just need to point your palm in another direction, and the thunder art will be guided out by you, Goku said patiently. I got it. The village chief was still feeling guilty for killing the immortal master, so he didn't suspect anything. He couldn't wait to get rid of the immortal technique that made him feel guilty. He raised his hand in one direction. Stop. However, at this moment, Muyu's voice came from a distance. He looked at Goku in shock and anger, and then he flashed to the village chief's side. Grandpa, don't use the thunder spell, Muyu shouted. The thunder spell was specially used to protect the village chief. With the support of Jian Ying and Chun Feng's formation, even Bai Jie could only avoid it. You are Muyu? The village chief looked at Muyu, who suddenly appeared in front of him, and was stunned. He hadn't seen Muyu for several years. When Muyu secretly returned to Flowing Water Village to set up a protective formation for him, he didn't appear in front of him because he felt guilty for slaughtering cultivators at that time. Therefore, the village chief only recognized Muyu by impression. Muyu said anxiously, "Grandpa, don't be confused by this bad guy." Muyu? At this moment, another wave of fluctuations flashed in the void. The palace emissary had stepped out. His appearance was like a huge mountain, making the earth tremble. It was as if the whole star was rotating around him, becoming the focus of this area. A man in the great vehicle stage. At the same time, Shihongi also appeared. Two auras of the crossing calamity stage covered the entire void, firmly sealing the entire void. Because of the blood shield covering the sky, they couldn't see Muyu, nor could they hear Muyu's words. However, when the village chief spoke, the three of them already knew that Muyu had come. Filthy bug. Muyu was also shocked and angry. He didn't expect the Sanchong Palace to send a man in the great vehicle stage. "Muyu, is it really you?" Village head Olbu cried out excitedly. He quickly and firmly covered his hand that was suffused with lightning in front of his chest, fearing that the lightning would accidentally strike the little wooden feather that he was so proud of. Guku said bitterly, "Elder, he's not your family's Muyu. I've already said that Muyu is confused by Yumon. This person is in disguise. No matter what he says, don't believe it, because he knows the past between you and Muyu." Because of the blood shield covering the sky, he couldn't see Muyu, let alone hear what Muyu was saying. However, he directly made a false accusation. "What? You're Yumon disguised as a fake Muyu?" The village chief was shocked. Muyu already hated the people of the Sanchong Palace to the bone. At this time, they actually tried to sow discord. He quickly said, "Grandpa, I'm not the fake Muyu. I'm the real Muyu." Shihongi also said, "Elder, no matter what this person says, don't believe it. He's Yumon in disguise. The real Muyu has been confused by Yumon. You have to believe us. We're here to bring you to save and awaken the real Muyu. This fake Muyu is sent to assassinate you." "What? Assassinate me?" The village chief's eyes were mortal. Even if he had a formation that could see through illusions, he didn't know this at all. In addition, the three people of the Sanchong Palace were like gods. They were incomparably holy, and their tone was awe-inspiring. They looked very convincing. Not to mention an old man like the village chief. Even self-cultivators would be deceived by their appearance. "Yes, he appeared here waiting to assassinate you. As long as you die, no one will be able to awaken Muyu. At that time, Yumon will be led by Muyu and trample the entire self-cultivator world. You have to think twice." Guku said. Whether it was Guku, Shihongi, or the extremely powerful palace envoy, they were all very afraid of the thunder art on the village chief's body. They didn't have the confidence to directly capture the village chief, so they didn't dare to act rashly. Otherwise, they wouldn't have wasted their breath. You're really Yumon in disguise?" The village chief gradually began to believe the words of the godlike people of the Sanchong Palace. He gritted his teeth and stretched out his hands. His hands flashed with lightning patterns and aimed at Muyu again. "You bunch of despicable Yumon. What did you do to my Muyu?" Muyu's heart was also in a panic. Even the palace envoy was afraid of the thunder art, so he naturally couldn't easily block it. If the village chief really used the thunder art on him, he was afraid that he would be doomed. The people of the Sanchong Palace were too cunning. With their flowery words and a righteous disguise, they deceived the village chief. "Grandpa, I'm really Muyu, the child that you raised. Have you forgotten that when I was young, I was so afraid of thunder that I crawled into your bed? I'm not someone in disguise, and I'm not confused by some Yumon. They're the ones who want to confuse you," Muyu said anxiously. The village chief still believed in the hypocritical people of the Sanchong Palace. But if the person in front of him was really Muyu, he didn't dare use the thunder art. When he used it for the first time, it destroyed everyone. That kind of power scared him. He was afraid that he would make a mistake and kill Muyu. "You say you're Muyu. Then how do you prove it?" The village chief said in shock. "Grandpa, I was raised by you." "Grandpa, I've been an orphan since I was young, and I was raised by you. When people bullied me, you were the one who protected me. When you sent me to the academy, you discovered that I could control trees. At that time, I used the trees to kill the big gray bear and save you. You were afraid at the time, but you chose to believe me. You told me to be a good person who fought against the Yumming demons. Muyu wanted nothing more than to kill the people of the Sanshong Palace in front of him. The people of the Sanshong Palace had ugly faces, but they pretended to be noble. Now, they were trying to sow discord. The village chief hesitated. He couldn't decide what to do. Then he asked, "What else did I do? What else did I say? Does being scared by the big gray bear count?" Muyu asked helplessly. The village chief's face turned red. He quickly explained, "What do you mean by being scared to the point of peeing?" That's, I know. You said that if you hadn't scared the big gray bear, I wouldn't have been able to kill it, right?" Muyu said. The village chief nodded vigorously and said seriously, "That's right. That's the truth. After that, I returned to the village once. You were bullied by the immortal master of the greater village. I was the one who crippled that guy. You told me all sorts of heroic deeds, like 3 strikes of white chicken spirits, dancing at the sound of the rooster, and so on. None of them were reliable. I only did one thing, and that was to save you. You shouldn't doubt me now. You should trust me. They want to sow discord between us so that they can use you to threaten me. They are afraid of the lightning in your hands. None of us can withstand one of your lightning bolts." Muyu quickly explained everything clearly. The village chief began to waver, but Guku said, "Elder, in order to save you, so many of us were killed by the Yumon. Don't you understand now?" He said that anything can be found out because the real Muyu is already under their control. The village chief seemed to have thought of something. Then he asked, "I told you to be a good immortal master who fought against the Yumon. Did you do it?" Chapter 962. Muyu clenched his teeth, raised his head, and met the village chief's gaze. After hesitating for a moment, his eyes dimmed as he said, "I didn't do it." He didn't want to go against his conscience and lie to the village chief because he came back this time to tell the village chief the truth. He didn't want to go against his conscience and lie to him. "Muyu, if you say that, how can the village chief believe us?" Xiao Shui reminded him. However, Muyu shook his head. He didn't want to rely on lying to gain the village chief's trust. "You didn't do it?" Village chief Old Bu looked at Muyu in surprise. "Not all immortal masters are good people, and not all Yumming demons are bad people. I've just grown up and am able to see further and understand things better," Muyu said calmly. The people of the third palace couldn't hear what Muyu and village chief Old Bu were talking about because Muyu was invisible to them. Guku was afraid of letting Muyu convince the old man, so he immediately said, "I already said, he's just a disguise." The palace envoy was already impatient. "Don't talk nonsense. Don't use your lightning arts. Let's capture this person first." As a great ascension stage expert, the palace envoy didn't have time to say anything to village chief Old Bu. "Capture me? Then go ahead and try." Muyu looked at the 3 people without fear. He had blood protecting him, so he wasn't afraid of the 3 people. However, 2 white soul beads had already appeared in front of the palace envoy. For the people of the third palace, the fewer soul beads they had, the stronger they were. The palace envoy only had 2 soul beads, so his cultivation was very strong. A scarlet blood energy had already appeared in the white soul beads and merged into the palace envoy's eyes. His eyes suddenly became a demonic blood-red color. Village chief Old Bu didn't see these actions at all. The soul technique of the third palace, reverse origin blood, was specially used to deal with Muyu's soul technique. It was obvious that the palace envoy was much more powerful than Qian Shange and Wan Shuiyao when using reverse origin blood. He easily controlled the changed soul power without breaking his original disguise. "Now I can take care of you." The palace envoy had already seen Muyu, and the white light in his hand flickered. In order to not arouse village chief Old Bu's suspicions, his blood-red soul power was mixed in with the white soul power, so that no one could see any abnormalities. Muyu's heart was also frightened. The palace envoy was the most powerful person he had ever seen in the third layer of the palace. The cultivation base of the Deshang stage was far from what he could deal with now. The Sea Goblin King's domain magic weapon also immediately appeared in his hand. He originally had 4 domains, and now he had already used 3. Now he only had the Sea Goblin King's My Lord's Rise and Fall domain left. He didn't know what the Palace Envoy's domain ability was, but he knew that if they really fought, he definitely wouldn't be a match for a real Deshang stage expert. This time, you won't be able to escape. The palace emissary looked at Muyu coldly and released his domain, Aura. But at this moment, village chief Old Bu suddenly ran 2 steps in the air and stood in front of Muyu. "You are not allowed to touch my Muyu, Grandpa." Muyu was endlessly shocked. Village chief Old Bu extended his trembling hands that were emitting lightning and pointed them at the palace emissary and the others. He actually didn't have any confidence in his heart, because other than this last lightning art, he was just a mortal. But he still gathered his courage and said, "Of course I believe in my Muyu, because I watched you grow up. Your expression of admitting your mistake can't be faked. I'm not that old yet." Muyu laughed. "I knew that Grandpa had a discerning eye. Of course, don't you know who I am?" Village chief snorted and then said, "Muyu, are those 3 really bad people? Why don't they look like it?" "Grandpa, look at the person who wants to make a move against me. Do his eyes still look like a good person?" Muyu reminded. Village chief Olbu was also shocked when he saw the palace emissary's blood-red eyes. Even though the palace emissary had already tried his best to disguise his soul power, his eyes couldn't be disguised no matter what. That was a pair of eyes that were suffused with blood chi. It looked especially scary. "So these 3 people are the white chicken spirits. Don't worry, Muyu, you were most afraid of lightning when you were young. This time I will protect you. Kill these 3 white chicken spirits." Village chief Olbu's hands were emitting lightning, and his confidence was also a lot stronger. White chicken spirits. Muyu was stunned, and then he didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he remembered the story of Muyu beat 3 white chicken spirits that village chief Old Bu had fabricated for him. The white chicken spirits in the story were also very cunning, and they changed into a family of 3 to sow discord between Muyu and the village chief. And the one who was deceived in the story was village chief Old Bu himself. In the end, the village chief noticed that something was wrong with the white chicken spirits, and only then did he understand that Muyu was a good child, and then he helped Muyu to kill the white chicken spirits. Even though it was nonsense, it was no different to the village chief. "Yes, Muyu, don't worry. I won't be deceived like in the story." Village chief Old Bu vowed solemnly. Muyu helplessly stood next to the village chief and said, "Grandpa, don't use this thunder art recklessly. Listen to my command. Otherwise this thunder art will be wasted, and once it is wasted, we will be in danger." The palace emissary frowned. When he saw that village chief Old Bu had chosen to believe Muyu, he didn't act rashly. The thunder art on village chief Old Bu was definitely not a joke. It was much stronger than his domain ability. It was a thunder art that combined the lightning art of Enai Lei Jinren and the sword shadow dust wind formation technique. It was far from what he could withstand alone. "Lord Palace Emissary, that old man doesn't believe us. What should we do now?" Guka asked. "Since the plan has failed, there is no need to pretend anymore. Just capture Muyu and the old man. They can only threaten us with this thunder art. As for Muyu's other domain abilities, there is no need to be afraid. As long as we avoid this thunder art, they will be like turtles in a jar." The palace emissary said coldly. "Yes." White soul beads also appeared in front of Shihongi and Guku. Guku had 10 beads, and Shihongi only had 9. Scarlet blood chi was emitted from their soul beads. This blood chi was refined from the self-cultivators they had killed in advance, and was specially used to deal with Muyu. Now, every person from the 3rd palace who was carrying out a mission outside would prepare a reverse origin blood in advance to deal with Muyu. Dark red blood mist floated out of the white soul beads. Shihongi and Guku were not as proficient in using the reverse origin blood as the palace emissary. After they used this soul technique, the original holy light of their bodies was suddenly covered by a bloody light, like a blood-soaked demon. The white chicken spirit has shown its true form. Village chief Old Boo began to feel afraid again, because he knew that his thunder art could only be used one last time. If it did not hit anyone, then he could only be trampled on. Grandpa, don't panic. The formation pattern under Muyu's feet had already emerged, connected to the village chief's body, and enveloped him in his own formation technique. Muyu, I may not be able to control the thunder art. What if you're hurt by me? Village chief Old Boo said worriedly. He had just electrocuted the middle-aged immortal master, and now he was still a little scared. He was afraid that as little Mu, you would also be killed. As long as you listen to my instructions, you won't hurt me. Muyu's 8 trigrams formation had already brought village chief Old Boo back step by step. At this time, the palace emissary, Shihongyi, and Guku also surrounded them, but they did not dare to get too close. They all carefully looked at village chief Old Boo's hands. As long as they could avoid this thunder art, the rest of the matter would be much easier to handle. Okay. Village chief Old Boo's forehead was dripping with sweat. Usually, he would brag to the children in the village about how powerful immortal masters were, how they could destroy the heavens and earth and break cliffs with a wave of their sleeves. He was quite envious in his heart, but when he discovered that he had this ability, he was afraid that he would not be able to control it. Grandpa, trust me, I will definitely protect you and leave. Muyu said firmly. Village chief Old Boo composed himself and nodded. I know. Muyu is very powerful. Grandpa is not afraid. Muyu's expression was very solemn. The village chief's thunder art could only be activated once more, and the 3 people in front of him were afraid of this thunder art, so they did not dare to get too close. At this time, they had to ensure that they had time to escape when village chief Old Boo activated the thunder art. Grandpa, as long as you don't leave the village, nothing will happen in the future, so I have to bring you closer to the village. Muyu directly brought the village chief and rushed in the original direction. As long as they reached the range of the flowing water village's formation, the village chief would at least be safe and would not be forcefully taken away, and Muyu would think of a way to deal with these 3 people. What about you? Don't do anything stupid. I'm not afraid of death. I can still protect you. Village chief Old Boo said seriously. Muyu knew that the village chief's words were true. When they first encountered the big grizzly bear, the village chief's grandfather was willing to sacrifice himself to lure it away, and now he was even more so. However, Muyu could not let anything happen to the village chief again. The village chief was the 9th immortal, and no accidents could happen to him. Not to mention, to Muyu, the village chief was a relative. I won't do anything stupid. I know what I'm doing. Muyu calculated the distance in his heart. He estimated the current position. The Sanchong Palace sent people to trick village chief Old Boo here, and this place was already quite far from the flowing water village, so he had to weigh the pros and cons of breaking out. However, the palace envoy had already expected Muyu's plan. A terrifying and powerful domain swept out, directly blocking the direction to the flowing water village. You want to go back? It's not that easy. The palace envoy did not hesitate any longer. With a wave of his hand, the white soul beads suddenly turned into specks of starlight, spreading out like ripples, instantly bombarding Muyu. As for Shihongyi and Guku, they had already seen the opportunity and left this area. Soul Technique Luoyin, Wild Underworld 7 Arts. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.